I am a Liverpudlian, and I come from the Spion Cup. I love to sing, I love to shout, I get thrown out quite a lot. We support the team that's dressed in red. It's a team that you all know. It's a team that we call Liverpool, and to glory we will go. We've won the league.
Hello and welcome to the Plastic Scousers podcast. My name is Matt Simpson and this is my co-host, a man who has proudly invented a brand new musical instrument. It's Owen Collins.
Thank you very much, Matt. Yes, it's an odd contraption. It's a sort of cross between a violin and a trumpet. It's called the violumpet, and you basically hold it under your chin and sort of pull a bow across it, and it toots.
Right.
And it's really good at sort of it's great because you can play it in a brass band, just like marching up and down the green, or you can play it in like a string quartet at a funeral, and it sounds equally out of place at both.
Excellent. Is there anywhere it would sound in place?
Mines.
Mine shaft or just at your house?
Down mine shafts, yeah, but only in Wales.
Oh, why Wales?
Well, see, if you play it in a mine shaft in like Northumberland or even Durham, the sort of brass aspect hits home really well, but the strings sound a little bit patronising. Whereas in Wales, because you've got that sweeping sort of valleys atmosphere, the kind of the great male voice choirs, the strings really add a certain something.
Right. Okay.
Anyway, talking of valleys, as we begin our descent to the bottom of the season mountain, we here at the Plastic Scousers have all of the games, goals and talking points from the month of March. There is a total of 5 games throughout the month, which we will, of course, be discussing with the insight and irreverence that you have come to expect.
Well as that, we salute a deluge of dreadful number 9s in our despicable 11. I test Owen's player knowledge with another of my devilish quizzes, and we go behind the scenes at Melwood to examine the day-to-day goings-on as a player and staff member of Liverpool FC. But first, there's football to talk about, and we welcome Newcastle United to Anfield.
Yes, and not just Newcastle United, but a man who is regarded as, would you call him a club legend?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I would. John Joe Shelby, coming back to Anfield again. I don't think he even played this game, did he?
No, I think he was suspended.
Well, there we go.
He's often suspended.
That joke died on its arse.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same joke you always make. We've talked about this.
I get a lot of fan mail saying they like my jokes, Matt. I know you don't. I know you hate them. Well, you do them every month.
It's the banter, isn't it? It's the banter.
I had one telegram come through during March from a Mrs. Quailsby, who lives in Bognor, who said, "Please open the show with a John Joe Shelby joke. It's for my niece. She is 21 this month." And so little Rebecca Quailsby, that one's for you. Thank you very much for getting in touch.
Fantastic.
It means a lot. Rafa Benitez was back at Newcastle. No, he wasn't. Brilliant. He was back at Liverpool.
Oh, you did so well. You're like right at the line and then you fell.
P.S. says Mrs. Quailsby, please get every fact wrong throughout the podcast. Yes. I'm doing my best, Mrs. Q. I'm doing my best.
Yes, Rafa Benitez, of course, at Newcastle United, going down a storm there, it seems, with a limited budget and even less support really from the board. But the fans love him, as we did when he was our manager. And we've had a bit of trouble against him as an opposition manager, haven't we, Owen?
We have never beaten him, Matt. Never.
No. Which is surprising, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think we first played him in 2002?
Against Valencia. Yeah, because we lost twice in the group of the Champions League against Europe Champions League, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah,
and we didn't just lose, we got absolutely kind of schooled by him, really. It was and this was back in the day, obviously, it feels quite recently, but actually, it was sort of getting on it was well over 15 years ago.
Yeah. God, I feel old now.
I do, but if you think that football has changed that much, that, back then, it wasn't just like a different manager. It was like a different style of football. Do you know what I mean? But hadn't come certainly hadn't come to Anfield yet. Whether it had come to Liverpool, we still had Gerard Houllier, who is a man I respect enormously, but he is not sort of by any stretch a modern football manager anymore. And I think even then he wasn't really cutting edge. But what's weird is that even since we kind of, I mean, what we did with Benitez was sort of what we later did with people like Sadio Mane and Christian Benteke, which was we were just so fed up of him beating us that we just thought, if we can't beat him, hire him. But yeah, even since then, since he's left and he's come back several times with Chelsea and with Newcastle, and we've never managed to beat him. No, we hadn't. And the Omens, well, we were playing fairly well at this point. Not too unconfident, but I'm still very nervous about them coming and frustrating us, much like they did in the reverse fixture at St James's Park, in which they had a 1-1 draw that, quite frankly, was very undeserved. I mean, we've struggled against Newcastle for a while, actually. Was it the season, because they've only just come back up, but the season they went down, which was the year they hired Benitez, we drew with Benitez Newcastle that March, and before that we actually lost to them when they had Steve McLaren in charge, which is just absolutely mind-boggling. Yeah, and actually it's one of our players who scored against us in Gini Wijnaldum. That's right, yeah. I'd forgotten that. Again, see, we just buy anyone who scores against us. Yeah, this is true. It was Benitez coming back to Anfield. We, like you say, we were quite nervous. We had a strong lineup out again, though. I mean, pretty much first choice. Pretty much first choice. I think probably the only one where you question it is Dale Lovren in at the back with Virgil van Dijk. Although we're still not really sure who the number 2 centre back is, if you know what I mean. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people will say Dale Lovren's number 2 in a different fashion, but yeah. I'd also like to add that I'd also say Nathaniel Klein is number 2. Yes, which is a fact. That is also, yeah. I would say second in line, but he might get other ideas. When will that joke die, I wonder? Yeah, and Trent Alexander-Arnold as well, who I would say probably still isn't first choice right back. No, I mean, he'd been rotating with Gomez pretty much all season. So yeah. But other than that, it was a strong lineup, and it wasn't the easiest game, was it? Very frustrating, I think. As you said, Newcastle sort of came almost looking for a point or to hopefully catch us out on the break, which they didn't really look particularly threatening through most of the first half, but we really struggled to break them down and just seemed to lack a little bit of fluency and a little bit of the pace and the rhythm, which, again, Newcastle's credit, they sort of stifled us. But we did actually make the breakthrough just before half-time. Yeah, 40th minute. I think it was some fantastic work from Alexander Oxlade-Chamberlain. I've never heard anyone call him Alexander Oxlade-Chamberlain. Really? Is that his name, do you think? Yeah, well, yeah. Well, no, because it could be like Alex. I've always called him Alexander Oxlade-Chamberlain. I swear, when he came through, he was known as Alexander Oxlade-Chamberlain. Was he? Yeah, when he first broke through into the Arsenal and England team, I swear everyone called him Alexander Oxlade-Chamberlain, because I find it weird calling him Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. Okay, interesting. Well, his full name is Alexander Mark David Oxlade-Chamberlain. So, is it really? Yeah, he's got 5 names. Is that hyphenated or is that? His initials are Amdoc. Amdoc. That's wonderful. That sounds like a 1980s technology company. It does. It sounds like something Alan Sugar would kind of set up to help, like, dockers. Yeah, or like a docking station for I don't know what technology he had in the 80s. Massive mobile phones. For one of his terrible computers. Yes. Was he the ZX Spectrum or was that someone else? No, he was the Amstrad something or other. Yeah. No, that was like an actual computer. The ZX Spectrum was a video game machine, I think. What was the tiny little car? What? No, I don't know. There was a car? Sinclair C5. That's what I'm thinking of. You know what I mean? It's like a little Dodger, but it's an actual car. Okay, yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, Liverpool Newcastle. Technology. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain to the Sinclair C5 in 5 easy steps. Yep. Yeah. I can't even remember what we said about him. He said, yeah, it was a really good play from him, sort of cutting through a quite packed Newcastle defence in terms of manpower. I think he sort of broke through about 3 players to play in Mr. Mohamed Salah. Who what's his middle name?
Don't know. Should we have this is getting quite interesting now. Let me have a look.
We should do a quiz one month of
players. Well, technically Salah is his middle name.
Really?
Because he's got an Arabic name. Obviously, they're not the same. What am I talking about? The same way
Custom.
around. Yes, like we're used to kind of first name last name, whereas they don't refer to it that way. So his name is Mohamed Salah Ghali.
Oh,
there you go.
That's good. I'm glad he took Salah though, because it's a lot easier to fit into songs.
Yes, than Ghali. I guess Ghali Gosh would be,
Ghali Gosh or Gingang Gooli Gali. Is that what's that? Gingang Gooli?
Gingang Gali.
Yeah. Or I'm trying to think what rhymes with Gali.
Gianluca Vialli. That's the first one that came to mind.
Yeah. I'm sure we could work him into a song.
Yeah, but Gianluca Vialli and Mohamed Salah Ghali.
No, Salah Ghali. Sally. Harley.
I'll leave you to think about that, Owen. As we discussed the fact that yes, he finishes it off. Goalkeeper gets a hand to it, but it flies into the back of the net, and there's never any doubt that Salah's going to score from there, really. And we look to be heading into the end of the first half 1-0.
Am I right thinking he nutmegged him?
Kind of, yeah. It came off of the inside of his leg and sort of deflected in. Just the power took it past him. Because I rate their goalkeeper, actually, that Martin Dubravka. I've seen him a couple of times, and he looks a real player. So, yeah, it was a good strike to beat him, really.
I wonder what his middle name is.
Let's not go there. Actually, just before half-time, because, again, we dominated the first half, but Newcastle had one real opportunity and brought an absolutely staggering save out of Loris Karius through Mo Diame.
Yes.
You don't remember this, do you?
No, I do. It was, and that's something of another game, when he it was a tremendous save in the kind of top right-hand corner. Yeah,
and, it's a great hit from Diame, and he's flung to his right, managed to turn it around the post. I mean, it's, as we talked about last month, the kind of, his sort of establishing himself as the number one, and more confident every game, and then, he's pulling off saves like that as well, and it's actually looking very good for him now.
Because I don't think the extravagant saves were never what he struggled with. It was the sort of the easy bits. But he's managed to find a way to get better at the easy bits and keep the extravagant saves in his game as well, which is satisfying.
Well, and especially with this one, it could easily have been going in 1-0 at half time. We were struggling to break them down as it was, and if we give them a hope, they, who knows if we couldn't have gone on to win the game in the second half. So,
yeah, that's the sort of thing we've often done against teams like Newcastle, is let them back in and throw that dominance away. So it was not just a great save, but a very crucial one as well.
So, coming out in the second half with a 1-0 lead, it actually only takes us another 10 minutes to double that.
Yes, and it was Sadio Mane, which makes a change.
Well, yeah, this season Salah. Certainly, yeah.
Talk us through it.
So it's great play in the middle of the park. Emre Can and Bobby Firmino, who breaks away wonderfully. He looks to be playing Andrew Robertson in on his left, but he doesn't, and instead he plays Mane, who's cut inside and ends up in a central position. Mane, simple first touch, almost sort of unnaturally hits it across himself, so it goes into the far right hand corner. It's quite an unnatural finish, but it's a really clever finish, a really good goal.
And he's sort of going down as he scores it, isn't he? He's kind of almost on his knees as it goes in.
Flying into the other side of the goal. It's it's a wonderful bit of build-up play and a great finish, and deservedly 2-0 up.
A brilliant, team goal, and because even sort of before Firmino got the assist in, there was a lot of great play in the middle of the park, just kind of passing it around with Newcastle players.
And I mean, after this, there isn't really much more to talk about. It sort of the game petered out. Newcastle didn't really look like threatening. We kind of just stuck into second gear, and really just saw the game out, and in the end a comfortable 2-0 win, and we finally beaten Benitez.
Yes, which is probably the manager I don't like beating. Do you know what I mean? Other than the fact we've never done it before, I've no real wish to do it to him. And I don't dislike Newcastle. Not again. I mean, I'd rather he didn't beat us anymore, but I'm really glad that he's doing well at Newcastle, and I think it's actually testament to Benitez that, how many managers, especially like European Cup winning managers who would probably get a job at most, like at one of the top 5 clubs in most European leagues, would get relegated with a side and spend a whole year with them in the Championship and bring them back up. Like, especially with the situation Newcastle have got, do you know what I mean, with their owner and their sort of directors. It's such a kind of testament to Benitez that he stuck it out with them and got them back to the Premier League at the first time of asking. And they're not having a bad season.
No.
They've looked a bit wobbly at times, but they are quite fortunate that there's so many teams that are also doing absolutely terribly. But it's I'm very pleased for him.
Exactly, and so that was a very positive start to the month. As we take a 5-0 first leg victory to the second leg in the Champions League against FC Porto.
Yeah, now this actually felt like a very long time after the first leg, didn't it?
It did a little bit, yeah.
It was nearly 3 weeks.
It was 2.5, yeah, about that.
Well, it was one day, because the first leg was the 14th of February, the second was the 6th of March, so it was just shy of 3 weeks, which is quite a long old time. Possibly because of that. We did put out a very strong side again. I was expecting a much weaker side than we got, considering it was all over.
Well, yeah, it was a bit of a weird one. I wasn't quite sure what to expect out of this.
I would have been absolutely flabbergasted if we'd lost. I don't think there's, it wasn't even like, oh, we've got to be careful because they might still hit us on the counter. If we'd scored once, they'd have had to score 6. So it's they
had to score 6 anyway, but for me it was more just the idea that I wasn't quite sure what sort of performance we'd get. I wasn't sure, like, were we going to go for it and just keep trying to score? Would we sort of sit back? And in the end, it was just a bit of something of nothing, really. It was almost like we saw Alberto Moreno get a start, rare start. We saw Adam Lallana starting a game and playing 90 minutes for the first time this season. John Matip was back in, Joe Gomez was in. As you say, strong lineup. Mo Salah was on the bench, but Firmino and Mane were in the side. So it was, it ended up just being a bit of a nothing game.
Yeah, it was you've used the term dead rubber, and it completely was. It was there was nothing. There was very little to say about it.
It was all just going through the formalities, really,
Yeah, it kind of, you got the sense very early on that Porto weren't going to do anything jaw-dropping.
No, I think they just didn't want to get embarrassed again, really.
Yeah, to be fair, they didn't. They put in a good performance. They got, they essentially got a point at Anfield. But it wasn't exactly one of the great European nights at Anfield that we've come to know and love. Like you say, probably the biggest highlights, other than, qualifying for the quarterfinals of the Champions League, which we sort of knew we'd done anyway, was the team selection, and particularly on the hour mark, Danny Ings coming on.
Yeah, getting a good half an hour. And actually, he had the best chance of the game. He forced a brilliant save out of Iker Casillas. Pretty much the only thing about the game I can remember.
Same. That's something you'd have got decent odds on about 5 years ago, was Danny Ings forcing a save from Iker Casillas. He was playing, for Bournemouth 5 years ago? Casillas was at Real Madrid.
I think he was at Burnley, but 5 years ago.
Was he? Was he still at Burnley? Yeah. Even so, it's just funny where time takes you, isn't it, in football?
It does, yeah. And I do hope Ings gets a goal before the end of the season. I don't know about you, because I don't know if he'll be here next year, and I'd really like for him to at least get one.
I don't think he should be here next year.
because he needs to play.
He needs to play, and I don't think he's good enough.
Oh,
and
okay.
I like the guy a lot, and I keep asking Brian Cox and D Ream, whether he's good enough, and they say to me Ings can only get better. But actually, I'm not sure. If
That's terrible.
I know, but I'm proud of it.
Deary me.
Yeah, I think I like him a lot. He's a really likable player and a likable person, and I think he's unlucky because he got injured basically at the exact moment that Liverpool started changing. And so by the time he came back,
But wasn't he injured on Klopp's first training session?
Yeah, literally the first day of the revolution, and it's a bit like kind of I don't know, you kind of you go on holiday for a bit and you come back and your parents have moved house and you just don't have a bedroom to come back to at a new place, and suddenly it's like, well, I don't really fit in here anymore. And it's not necessarily their fault for downsizing or your fault for going on holiday, but just in terms of all the important stuff that he really needed to be in contention for happened while he was out injured. And so he's just come back to a team where there's no place for him anymore. And the golfing class between him and say, Bobby Firmino, who he is most likely to be the sort of placement for off the bench, is so massive that I don't think he's got. I would be very surprised and slightly disappointed both for us and for him if he was still here come September.
Well, this is it. That's kind of what I'm. And there's a game later this month that I just want to, we'll be talking about him again. But I just think for me, for all the hard work and effort he's put in, and how you say he's a likeable chap, if he got one goal before the end of the season, I think the Liverpool fans would be delighted.
Oh, absolutely, and I would be. I would love to see him score, and I do think that if there was a game, and this is slightly foreshadowing what we're going to talk about later as well, but if there was a game where, say, like Mo Salah got a hat-trick, and Danny Ings scored once with a tap-in, the crowd would go every bit as wild for Ings' goal as they did for Salah's third. Do you know what I mean?
That's it, isn't it?
It's a bit like when we had Ricky Lambert. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of not fair to compare the two, but yeah, I know what you mean.
No, because Ings is, in fairness, a lot better than Ricky Lambert, and he's at a very different stage in his career. Whereas, he's still arguably on the way up, even though it's probably going to be a step down wherever he goes next. Whereas Lambert was definitely, on the way down. But it's at that point where everyone sort of knows in their heart he's not good enough, but they want to see him score just before he goes,
Exactly.
Yeah.
But anyway, ended up being 0-0, and we are through to the Champions League quarter-final, which is pretty good, let's be honest.
Yeah. Should we talk about the draw now, or I can't remember exactly when in the month it happened.
It was a couple of days after. So we found out who we were going to get, and it wasn't good.
It was Man City, which you will know by the time you hear this. I mean, you'll know what the draw was, but and I wasn't too upset about it. You were quite angry, weren't you?
It's the worst draw we could have had, without question, because Man City were one of the biggest teams left. There was Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, etc. And so if you're going to get one of those teams, you at least want two things. You want Anfield in the second leg, which we didn't get. It was the first leg. And you want a glamorous European trip to, Turin or Madrid or Paris or whatever, right? Not 50 miles up the M62.
Yeah, it's not exactly one of the great away trips.
No. We've already been there this season and had a hammering, so...
I mean, I thought I didn't think we had any reason to fear Man City because we'd already shown they weren't invincible. We'd already shown in that January game we were more than a match for them and we could easily, not easily, but we could take them on and come out on top if we went for it. So I wasn't as fearful as you were, I think.
But the thing was, they scored 3 times at Anfield, which, if they do that in the Champions League, that's a real trouble for us to, have to replicate that. And also the fact they basically already wrapped up the league by the time we were going to meet them, so they could focus all their attention on the game. So I just thought, this is a maelstrom of hell.
Yeah, that was a fair point.
So, but that's those games will be judged in April. And so we will return to the Champions League then, because we have 3 more Premier League games in the month to talk about, and the next one's a big one. We're off to Old Trafford.
Yeah, and I was feeling, I think, a lot more confident about this than I maybe should have done.
It's 2 things. It's Jose Mourinho, and it's Old Trafford. I mean, we don't have a great record at Old Trafford. We've won once in like 10, 12 years, and we've lost most of the times we go there. Even when we beat them we beat them on aggregate in the Europa League, it was a 1-1 draw when we came to Old Trafford 2 years ago now. There is that thing. Jose Mourinho hates Liverpool as much as we hate him, and he knows how to stop us when he needs to.
I mean, the perfect evidence is that Chelsea game in 2014. When they were time wasting from 3 minutes in, but it worked for him. I mean,
he got the job done, you know.
He doesn't know how to play football anymore. He's not a football manager. He's just a man manager. His teams are the most uninspiring, bland, unexciting football you could imagine.
Oh, he's more a PR representative than anything else, really.
Oh, he is. He's a spokesperson, isn't he?
Yeah, he just manages the media, not the players.
Yeah, he is a spokesperson for himself. He's well, I think it's fairly obvious we can't stand him, and I hated him even more after this game, didn't you?
Oh, of course I did. Yeah. It wasn't. To be fair, we didn't play well. We were poor defensively. We didn't really create enough. I mean, that is testament to Jose Mourinho's negative tactics of playing 2 defensive midfielders in Matic and McTominay. And we gave them opportunities and they took them. And it's even worse because it's a Manchester local boy who did the damage, scoring twice in the first 25 minutes in Marcus Rashford.
One of the most overrated players in the league.
Oh, hugely, yeah.
Yeah,
but you can't say that because he scored twice against us, so he did all right.
Yeah, I mean, he did have a good game this time. He's had a pretty quiet season all round, to be honest, but he did well today.
No help, unfortunately. It's one local boy in Rashford, and the player who was at fault for certainly the first goal and to a lesser extent the second is a Liverpool local boy in TAA.
Yeah, 2/3 of a beast was not very beastly this game. It makes it even more painful, doesn't it? Because he's one of my favourite players. He's one of our most exciting prospects for years, and he kind of looked out of his depth this game.
I think the occasion got to him, you know.
Yeah, which is weird. Like, I'm surprised at him. I am surprised that happened to him because he's played, in the Champions League all season. But I think the occasion and just. I mean, we went behind after 15 minutes, and psychologically, I think that will, when it's your fault, that will do something to you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, he let Rashford run off him. He got turned too easily, and I mean, it's a great finish from Rashford. You can't deny it, but TAA knew he'd made a mistake, and again, the second one, 10 minutes later, Carrier should have said keep it out. Again, Trent loses Rashford, who ends up in the middle of the goal with a tap in after a Mata's hit. As I say, Carrier just spilled it out. I mean, it's 25 minutes, we're 2-0 down, and actually, the way we were playing it could have been worse.
Yeah. I mean, Lovren had a bit of a shocker again this game.
Even Van Dijk didn't look great.
Yeah. No one came out of this game looking particularly well. Even up front, we didn't actually score, technically, this game.
No, none of our players scored, no.
No. We did get on the score sheet in the second half, but it was sort of Eric Bailey own goal.
Eric who?
Bailey.
Bailey? You mean Bailey?
No, Eric Bailey.
Eric Bailey?
Yeah.
Right. That's a very English way of pronouncing a very French name.
It's the UKIP in me coming out. It's it's the same as Sebastian Coates.
Yes, true.
Who was the other one I did to the other month?
I can't remember, actually.
I do have this... Oh, Arnautovic.
Oh, Arnautovic. Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I have this thing where I read them and I say it a certain way in my head, and then whenever I hear it spoken out loud, I'm like, oh, that's not how it sounds in my head. And a bit like when you read a book, you see the film, and the actor they hire to play the character doesn't look at all like what you imagine them, and it's rubbish, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so I think to guard me against that, I've just refused to change how I pronounce names.
It's interesting though, because you don't pronounce it Van Dijker or Wijnaldum or Mignolet. So
I do. Well, I call him Miggs. I call Mignolet Miggs. In
yeah,
shorthand.
but we call Firmino Bobby. So
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think Wijnaldum is better.
Wijnaldum.
I mean, Wijnaldum. You can call him Wij.
Which Naldum? That Naldum or that Naldum?
Wijnaldum. Wijnaldum. By Naldum. It's Well, yeah. I think we should call him Widge from now on.
Widget.
It's like Michael Bublé was born Mickey Bubbles.
Mickey Bubbles.
Mickey Bubbles. That was his original name before I changed it to make it sound more
I can't
French.
believe no one has a surname Bubbles anymore, do they?
Yeah. It's Kenny Bubbles. Kenny Bubbles plays for Luton. No, he plays for
Kenny
Luton.
Bubbles.
Yeah, he's a defensive midfielder. Plays for Luton.
Kenny Bubbles.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't. No. Kenny Bubbles. What a lie. What a liar.
I can't believe you're accusing me of this. This is genuine.
Because I've Googled it and there's no one there.
There is. He played yesterday. He scored.
All right, let's move on from these lies and shenanigans.
No, I'm going to prove this. Have you got the Luton squad list in front of you now?
Luton Town FC. Well, I've just put Kenny Bubbles, Luton Town, and nothing's come up.
Well, it's not pronounced. It's pronounced Bubbles, but that's not how you spell it.
Do you pronounce it Bullshit?
No, it's Hylton.
Right.
Yeah, but you pronounce it Bubbles.
Is it Peli Ruddock Mpanzu that you're meaning?
No, I think. Well, some people say it's called Danny Hilton, but I'm sure it's Kenny Bubbles.
I thought you meant Luke Gambin, Maltese international.
Ah, that's a good. You know, there's never been a Maltese international in the Premier League.
There hasn't been, no. Well, I did after our geography quiz last month.
Maybe.
I'm aware.
Yeah, that came up. I think we should buy Gambin just to give him one game against Swansea next year, and then
Yeah, absolutely. Get a Malteser on the pitch.
They think it's all over.
Yeah, they do. Anyway, yeah, as you say, Eric Bailly did actually score a slightly bizarre own goal. He sort of volleyed it into his own net in a really weird fashion, which did give us hope. But even then, I just never saw us coming back into it, really.
Yeah, it was. I wouldn't say it's too little too late, because there was still half an hour to go, but I think we never really looked. The fact there was no goal that got it back for us, just suggested our hearts weren't in it, almost.
It wasn't happening. It was just one of those days, you know. And unfortunately, we lose our first game in quite a while in the Premier League. 2-1 away at Old Trafford. Interestingly, we haven't actually beaten Man U in the Premier League since 2014.
Have we not?
No.
No, I suppose because it was all those years when Van Gaal was manager, and then bloody hell, yeah. Because the only time we beat Van Gaal was in the Europa League. That's right. And then and since
3-0 away at Old Trafford was the last time.
Yeah, a couple of penalties in it, wasn't it?
Yeah, he should have had a hat-trick of penalties, and Suarez scored the other.
That's it. Good days.
So.
Good days.
Yeah. Sadly, we had to move on from that one. But speaking of good days, we managed to rectify that poor performance a little bit with our next game, Saturday evening kickoff at home to Watford.
Yes.
This weekend was the weekend in March where it snowed everywhere.
That's right.
Yeah, including at the game as well.
Yeah.
Just snowed again in mid-March, of course. Welcome to the world. But it was a very idyllic scene Saturday evening at Anfield in the snow. and particularly idyllic for who has now become our Egyptian king, who you said earlier in the season you don't think he got the recognition he deserved. Well, after this, he bloody well did.
Yes, finally the world sat up and took notice after today. I mean, this is the best one-man performance by a Liverpool team I've seen since the 13-14 season we had Suarez against Norwich.
It's a similar, isn't it? Yeah.
It is. Yeah, it was just kind of because even when he wasn't scoring, he was setting them up for people. Do you know what I mean?
Suarez scored 4 in that game against Norwich and set up the other one. And not to spoil it, which I'm spoiling it, so this is exactly what Salah does here.
Yeah, it was a player just that you feel privileged to be witnessing. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
The first goal, then, he was the first one when he left the defender on his arse.
Yeah, he gets the ball. I mean, he's already had 1 or 2 opportunities before this. I mean, Watford had gone through at the back, and it was hopeless. It just didn't work because Salah just constantly found space in between Britos and the wing back, and he caused absolute hell. He picks up the ball, he turns inside a couple of times, leaves Britos on his backside, and finishes it calmly. Brilliant goal.
I mean, yeah, it was just almost humiliating, just toying with the Watford defence. Like you say, left him on his backside. Then the second one. Now this is one of those games where I'm trying to remember if the goals in the right order.
The
second one wasn't the one where he kind of dragged them all one way and then the other way and then the other way, was it?
No. This is a tap-in from a cross after a great 1-2 between Robertson and Mane on the left-hand side. Because this is right at the end of the half.
Yeah, and it was a demon cross from Andy Robertson.
Yeah, and it was just a simple tap-in for Salah, because we hadn't actually, despite dominating the first half, we hadn't scored another goal after the early goal a few minutes in. And but we got it in the end, and again, Salah finishing it off superbly to make it 2-0.
Yeah, it was a really audacious cross because it was between a defender and the goalkeeper, just slots it across, and Salah was there to tap it in, but basically to his boot. It's further evidence that, I mean, how much did we pay for Salah?
About 35 mil plus a little bit, I think.
Yeah, see, I mean, he's scored 34 goals or something by this point this season. You would ordinarily say that he is probably one of the bargains of the year, right? And yet, he's not even the best bargain of our team, because we bought Andy Robertson from Hull for the same amount that we got for Kevin Stewart.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, no disrespect to Kevin Stewart, he was a nice lad. But to think that for what we sold him for, we reinvested in probably the best left back we've had in years.
Yeah.
And I would say one of the best left backs in the league.
Oh, without question.
It's an incredible buy. It is 8 million we paid for him. It is just almost unheard of in modern football to get a player that good for that cheap.
Yeah, I mean, he's worth, he could be worth 5 times that now.
Oh yeah, if Kyle Walker's worth 50 million, Andrew Robertson's worth 60.
That's it, Yeah, great cross, 2-0. Absolutely thoroughly deserved at half-time. And in the second half, Watford didn't put up much more of a fight, and we just turned on the style. Again, Britos getting mugged off by Salah, but this time he doesn't score, but he does deliver the ball for Firmino to score an absolutely brilliant finish. Oh,
this was insane. This was another level. This was a sort of mid-air volley back heel.
Comes on his calf, I think.
Yeah, it does. It's not quite as... It from a distance, it looks better than it does close up. Because it looks more controlled, but it's still... It's
a superb improvised finish.
And he doesn't look. He's not looking again.
He's got about 60. What was it I said? 19% of his goals are no look. I think it's about the same now, even now. So
I think he's scored more goals not looking than West Brom have all season.
That'll be an interesting stat to look at.
It's something like that. There is some striker that has scored less goals than Firmino scored with his eyes closed. It's just remarkable.
Goal, Brilliant finish, and it's 3, and the game's up from here really. Yeah. So from then on, it's just well, what else can we get out of the game? One thing we haven't had all season, despite Salah's brilliance and however many stupid amounts of goals he scored now, he hasn't got a hat trick for us yet.
No,
but he gets one here.
He does, and it's again almost comical goal in terms of you almost like the first one where someone's lifted kind of banana skin ends up on their arse moment. He sort of Mane feeds him the ball and he kind of takes it one way and there's this like line of three Watford defenders like sort of lined up vertically, a bit like when they try and shoot the zombies in Shaun of the Dead. So I suppose we could take out a couple in a row if we line them up. Like he kind of jinks one way and all three of them like they're sort of attached together, like they're all chained together, sort of move as one. He goes the other. It's like a sort of weird Newton's cradle of human beings, and then he eventually just sort of takes it. Doesn't even take it past him. He just takes it side to side. They all sort of follow him, this kind of flowing, like wave almost, and then he just buries it.
It's like a dance almost, the way he
it is
gently, majestically waves them side to side as they do his bidding.
It is like it's been choreographed. It is. I mean, and poor old Karnezis.
Karnezis,
is that no? Oh yeah, I thought that was an M. Sorry, I'm reading it now. It's an R and an N. I mean, he can't even. He just sort of sticks out a leg, but he knows it's going in, and it's Mo Salah's first ever Liverpool hat trick, third hat trick of the season.
Yeah, already. Yeah, it's Coutinho, Mane,
against Porto.
That's right, and then Salah here. I mean, Salah has no right. Salah has no right to score this. Like, absolutely none. You see, like how he's falling over. He's gone through a crowd of 3 or 4 defenders, as you said, and then he's somehow hit the ball, and he's almost surprised the keeper because it slowly just trickles past him. I mean, it is just. We talked about him as comparisons to Lionel Messi in terms of the way he plays. This is as good. Yeah,
it is. It's like this is. He's never looked more like Messi than in this game, I don't think, Mo Salah.
No, it's extraordinary. And then to top it all off, and as we mentioned before, Danny Ings has come on at this point to see out the last 10-15 minutes, try and get him a goal. And I think it's quite interesting to see how they tried to get him a goal, because Salah a couple of times, Mane as well, both played him in. He had a shot well saved on the right-hand side. And this time it's some brilliant football, 1-2 passing. Salah eventually flicks it into the path of Ings brilliantly at the outside of his foot. Ings cuts inside, gets a shot away. It's not a great shot. It's parried by the keeper. Who's there to stick it in for his fourth? Salah.
Yeah, I mean, the keeper should have held it. It was poor from the keeper, but it's like even when Salah's not trying to score, even when he's setting up someone else, he ends up scoring. It's remarkable. It's we are running out of superlatives to describe Mo Salah because, I mean, this is far and away his best game in the Liverpool shirt. Far and away.
And he's had a number of them.
Oh, he has. Like, that's. I mean, I can't think of a bad game he's had. Maybe that Man United game before this, when he was sort of couldn't really get a look in. But
he's had quiet games, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it is just like you say with the Ings goal. He's trying to give people assists and stop scoring, and even then, whenever there's a spillage, who's there to just smash it home? He looked almost apologetic as he celebrated to Danny Ings, I thought, but
Well, you say that he was apologetic because at the end of this game, which we've eventually won 5-0, he goes up to the keeper with the match ball and says, "I'm sorry, mate."
Yeah, which is just the right side of patronising, I think.
Yeah, I don't think he's being patronising. I think he genuinely means it.
Oh yeah, he's
like, I'm just doing my job, mate. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because the nice thing about him as well is, Suarez was a genius on the ball, but he could be a bit of a dick, couldn't he? Like, even before he signed for us, if you remember that game in the World Cup for Uruguay when he handballed it in the last few minutes against Ghana. But Salah just seems like such a nice bloke. He just seems so nice. Yeah,
he does. You're absolutely right. I don't know if you've seen... this will have to go on the non-football moment of the year nominations list. There's a video on LSE TV of him surprising school kids. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah, I have.
I mean,
Yeah.
that sounds far sinister than I mean it to be. But
How is Adam Johnson getting on these days, by the way?
I think we'll move on. So he's hidden. So Salah's hidden behind this sort of. They've got these boards up that sort of look like camera dressing, and then they've got these kids commentating on his goal against Arsenal, the one where he breaks from his own half and finishes it. And just as he scores, he sort of jumps out of the board and goes, "Yeah!" And these kids' reactions are amazing. It's so good.
I mean, some of them don't actually respond. Like, some of them don't look that bothered. Like one of them kept commentating, and it's like, dude, Mo Salah's just leapt through a wall and is next to you. Like, give it up. Like,
committed to his art, like, committed to his job.
Yeah. Whereas some of them just go absolutely nuts and like themselves around him, and it is a heartwarming little video.
It's Mo Salah, and just jumped at him and hugged him. But that kind of shows that he's still wanting to get involved in the side of the club, and he still appreciates it, and he's willing to have fun, and he doesn't seem like the most outgoing person, but I think he embraces everything about the club. So
yeah, and he's he seems. There was something else I was watching where he'd like been filming in Liverpool, and his grannies had accosted him like on the sort of in Stanley Park or something like that, and he was just delighted to be hugging all his grannies.
A bit like Wayne Rooney. No. No, not like that, of course. For me, I think Salah just comes across as the sort of person who just loves playing football, and all he wants to do is play football, score goals, and win games. That's all he wants to do.
Yeah, he's in the sort of Ronaldinho mould where he's just doing it for the love of it. Do you know what I
mean? And wants to entertain people and make people happy as well.
Yeah, and he's doing a great job.
Very good job indeed. There's just one more thing, actually. We didn't mention this earlier in the match, but I believe we may have seen the last of a player in a Liverpool shirt in this game.
Yeah, Emre Can was injured after about half an hour, which was a bit of a kick in the teeth.
Came off with a back problem.
Yeah, and given his contract situation, which most of you will know is up at the end of the season, he's not signed another one yet. He's seemed quite unwilling to do so, and Juventus have basically all but signed him. I don't know, there's just something about players that seem to want to leave the club and getting a back injury. just and then getting called up for an international game anyway, and it makes me ever so slightly suspicious.
No, I'm not. I don't think that's fair. You definitely had a problem. You could see it, and you say he was called up by the international team, but he didn't play. He didn't go.
No, he didn't.
It was clearly a problem, and it looks like it's basically been confirmed he's out for the season. And then he went away on the international break and said that he was ready to play for a big team, which pissed me off to the point where, quite frankly, he can sod off.
Yeah, he's I don't know. I can't decide whether we should just let him go and just say, right, well, if that's your attitude, we don't need you, don't bother coming back, for the last few weeks of the season, or because he's always been quite inconsistent, hasn't he? He's blown hot and cold for his entire Liverpool career.
I don't think he's not like Mo Salah or Bobby Firmino. He's not vitally important to us. If he thinks,
he's not our best player. He's not our worst, but he's not our in our top three best players probably. Now we got Van Dijk, he probably would just about struggle to scrape into a top five. I'd have thought. Is that unfair?
I don't even know if he'd guarantee a starting place in the first 11. Not on current form, anyway. Because that midfield three, you'd probably put Henderson, Oxlade-Chamberlain, and Milner in there, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I think as Oxlade-Chamberlain and Milner I would definitely put above Can. I mean, I think there's an argument over whether he's a better player than Henderson. But what's annoying isn't that he's going, because no one's bigger than the club. It's that we should be getting 30 million for him, and he's leaving. Just the least he could do is a Coutinho, where he knows he wants to leave, signs a new contract, leaves again. In 6 months after signing it, but we get a tasty fee for it.
Yeah, we're not getting anything from him.
No, that's what I mean, and that's annoying because he's a 30-40 million pound player in the current market.
Anyway, we move on. Great win, 5-0, brilliant. And we come to the final game of the month. And we are away at one of our bogey grounds. This is Crystal Palace.
Is your local team, pretty much?
Yeah, pretty much from where I live, yeah. Actually, do you know what, on that? I was trying to think, who is your local team in the Premier League? And I've worked out who it is. And it's miles away.
Well, it's either Bournemouth or West Brom, I'd have thought.
It's Watford.
Oh, yeah. No, I suppose it is, yeah.
Yeah. Your local team is Watford, which is what? 100 miles away?
Probably more like 70, I thought.
Ah, fair.
Yeah, 70, 80 miles away, yeah. It would take about an hour and a half drive, 2 hours.
I do like how you went, it'll either be Bournemouth or West Brom. One is on the south coast, the other is in the Midlands.
Yeah, well, in fairness, I would position Oxfordshire pretty much equidistant between the south coast and the Midlands.
Yeah, probably.
I would say that if you had to define Oxfordshire to someone who didn't know where it was, saying it's halfway between the south coast and the Midlands is a fairly decent marker, do you know what I mean?
This is true, but like in most situations, those being your two nearest Premier League clubs would be very funny.
Yeah, well, I mean, I haven't got a very nearby Premier League club, so that's why.
Well, even if you go down to the Championship, you've got Reading is about the only one.
Yeah, I mean, if you go the other way, there's nothing for miles. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't like Swindon or Cheltenham. I don't even think Cheltenham. I'm not even sure Cheltenham are in the league anymore, to be honest.
No.
Yeah, it's a bit of a. I mean, you've got Oxford United as well, but
yeah, of course,
it's a bit of a footballing black spot, really. The sort of south central region.
Yeah. So yeah,
just a
we're
moment
at
of silence for all the Premier League clubs in Oxfordshire.
celebrating their successes.
Yes.
Let's.
Oh, I'll tell you who we nearly had. We nearly had Thames Valley Royals.
Right. What, in the 1800s?
No, it was in the 80s. I think Robert Maxwell, the kind of notorious media baron who was later found dead floating off his own speedboat somewhere in the Mediterranean or something, in suspicious circumstances. He was briefly Oxford United's chairman, and he announced a plan to merge Oxford United and Reading into one team, call them Thames Valley Royals, and have them play in a new stadium in Didcot.
Which all sounds just dreadful.
I mean, it's basically MK Dons before MK Dons was a thing.
Ah, right, cool.
Yeah, so they would maybe have been in an alternative universe, they'd have happened and got promoted to the Premier League and become the biggest team in England, and that would be my team now.
Yeah, without illicit drugs and prostitutes, you might have had that team.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But look at me now, Matt. Look at me now.
I know, absolutely. We're at Crystal Palace, and we've not had a huge amount of luck against this team in recent years. I mean, we did win the reverse fixture, but some would say we were a bit fortunate for two reasons. One, they missed a few chances, and two, they had Frank de Boer as manager. And also, we did win at the same ground last year, but it was 4-2, and it was a bit all over the place, messy-wise. So,
is it us being fortunate that they've got Frank de Boer as manager, or them being very, very unfortunate? I
think, well, the fact he was only manager for 4 games means we were fortunate to play them so early.
That's true. That is true.
So, particularly if you look at this next game, where we face another one of our old managers.
Yeah, Roy Hodgson, a man of considerably less standing on Merseyside than Rafa Benitez.
I think if you had less standing on Merseyside, you'd be floating in the river. So
yeah, that's true. You'd be you wouldn't have any legs. Not that there's anything wrong with not having any legs, of course, but
no.
Let's move on. Yeah, Roy Hodgson, who I don't dislike, but actually, like, in a way, he's off the hook now as sort of how bad he was as Liverpool manager, because he was in charge of the England team that got knocked out of a major championship by Iceland, which, funnily enough, has got a population smaller than the London borough that Selhurst Park is in. So, yeah, I mean, Crystal Palace, I think, when he took over from Frank de Boer, the only way was up for them and for him. And he's enjoyed a sort of career rehabilitation with the Eagles. But they are still...
Yeah,
I mean, when he took over, they hadn't scored a goal. And then they beat Chelsea. But, yeah, they're still kind of flirting with the relegation zone. It was a game we expected to win quite comfortably, despite all of that, I would argue.
I mean, yeah, but as I have mentioned, they have proved a bit of a bogey side to us in recent years, and obviously famous examples. I'm sure you can think of at least 2 or 3 yourself. But
yeah,
this was a tough game.
Yeah, it was. We made this very difficult for ourselves. We didn't get going for quite a while.
No, and unfortunately, once again, it was TAA who had a bit of a shocker. Not this time against Wilf Zaha. So, yeah, he just kept coming inside, and Trent didn't really follow him. Joe Matip couldn't be said to do much better either. He had one chance which he missed, and then eventually it happens again. Karius makes a huge mistake in flying out of his goal, crashes into Zaha, definite penalty. Karius lucky not to be sent off in many ways, only booked. But Luka Milivojevic buries it.
Yeah, absolutely buries it. Can't argue with the giving of a penalty. Can't argue with the taking of a penalty. We shouldn't have let it happen. But it was a it was a rubbish start to the game.
It was a rubbish first half. I'm not going to be honest with you. We just couldn't. Then we had a very strong lineup out. We had the front three: Milner and Henderson and Wijnaldum in the midfield. Back four, what many would argue be the back five, that the strongest back five. But just as from the brilliant performance we had against Watford, this was nothing. We did nothing. We kept making mistakes. They kept getting in on goal. I mean, we were lucky to only be 1-0 down.
This was after an international break as well, wasn't it?
I believe so, yeah.
Well, we should note actually that Joe Gomez got injured, which meant that we would be unlikely to see him again before the end of the season, I think. It's turned out slightly worse than we thought it had. But it did mean, on the bench for this game, we haven't actually mentioned, making his first appearance in the matchday squad in a competitive game since last May, Mr. Nathaniel C. Line.
Yeah, and I mean, I've sort of eaten my words here, because I said he'd never play for us again, and I was wrong.
Yeah.
So
it turned out he was only injured all along.
Yeah. I mean, I still don't know.
It turned out it was a back injury.
It was, yeah. So, yeah, he was on the bench against his former side, of course. Didn't get on, but it just means that Trent was the much more match fit and match ready right back, so he played in this game.
Yeah.
Interestingly, the only other thing I'd like to mention, and we don't usually do this, but Sadio Mane was booked for diving, and that's just not cool.
No, we condemn that in the strongest terms, because if he wants to do that, he should go and play for Tottenham.
Exactly, or Manchester United.
Yes.
And we end up going in 1-0 down at half time, and deservedly.
Yeah, no, I can't argue with that at all. Second half, however, started a lot more quickly. A lot quicker.
Yeah, this was a lot better. It was a lot better for us. And it to get back to 1-1 didn't take us long. And that is that man I just mentioned, Sadio Mane. He finishes off after some great work on the left-hand side by James Milner.
Yeah. I can't remember this goal too well, actually.
No, well, Milner picks out the ball. There's some good play, gets out to the left-hand side, and manages to hit a great cross into the near post. Mane beats his marker and just puts it in at the front post.
That's it. It's yeah. In fairness, I wasn't able to watch this game because I was in Croatia.
Of course you were.
I was. What you may have noticed, Matt, is I'm sort of basing all my holidays these days on where defensive Liverpool players are from.
Right.
So in the last few years, I've stalked Peter Galaxy, Alex Manninger, Ragnar Klavan, and now Dan Lovren. I've kind of.
Well, Loris Karius as well. I'd add to that.
And that work rather than holiday. But yeah, that's true.
I look forward to seeing your trips to the Scottish Highlands and to Amsterdam.
Yes, and Cameroon as well.
That's going to be a more exciting one.
Yeah, hopefully.
I'm not quite sure how touristy Cameroon is, but there we go.
No, me neither, actually. I've never kind of thought to look.
It's probably better than South London, so.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Not as good chicken, though.
No, true. Although, if you want to get some good food, go to Belgium, where Mignolet's from.
Yeah, get some nice, paprika and chips. Chips and mayonnaise. That's it, isn't it? Yeah.
Is that what Belgium does?
Chips and mayonnaise? Yeah, that's Belgian, isn't it?
Is it? I thought it was like a traditionally European thing. I didn't know Belgium specifically.
Oh, maybe it is.
I was more thinking like chocolate and stuff.
Chocolate and waffles, yeah.
Yeah.
Belgium is good. Or yeah.
Or beer. You can get a good blonde beer or Weiss beer. Which one's Belgian? Blonde beer, isn't it?
Yeah. Is it Lef? Is that Belgian?
Leffy, or whatever it's called. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go. A little bit more culinary advice from Plastic Scousers there.
I'd quite like to go to Belgium now.
I'll tell you what, Rick Stein's long weekends has got nothing on us.
No, we can recommend all the great places to go.
Yeah, somewhere where it sells beer and waffles.
I mean, what more do you want?
Well, exactly, yeah.
Beer and waffles.
What more do you want?
Yeah. And then after this goes in, we're still doing relatively well, but I mean, we still look vulnerable defensively. I know Benteke missed. I don't know if you remember either of these two sitters, basically.
Yes, I do. Yeah, he blazed one of them over the crossbar, and one of them sort of completely wide and over, wasn't it?
Yeah, he sort of chips the keeper and does an absolute hash of it, and it goes miles wide. And thankfully, neither of those decisions cost us. Then we have a bit of a weird few minutes where, between say the 60th and 70th minute, where someone should be sent off. He then comes off, someone else comes on, and then they come off.
Yeah, he got injured, didn't he, Lallana?
Yeah, but before that was Sadio Mane's incident, where on a yellow card, as we discussed, for diving, he goes down on the edge of the box, the edge of his own box, I think it was, and grabs the ball as if to say, I want a free kick for this, or I'm going to get a free kick for this, which people sometimes do.
Yeah.
Except he didn't get a free kick, and ended up it being given the other way. And, I mean, a handball's a yellow card, so surely he should have been sent off?
Yeah, I think the ref, whoever it was, Neil Swarbrick, must have taken a bit of sympathy on him.
I mean, we were lucky, though.
Yeah, I mean, it was bizarre.
Yeah, you should never do that.
No. Play to the whistle, as my old hockey coach used to say. Yeah, strange. And then, yeah, he went off, didn't he? He
was taken off. It was a double change. Him and Wijnaldum both came off for Oxlade-Chamberlain and Lallana. Yeah. And as you mentioned, then 5 minutes later, Adam Lallana, after being taken out by a crunching challenge, is injured and has to be replaced by Dejan Lovren, weirdly.
Yeah, that was a weird change. But then we didn't really have anyone else. We didn't have any other midfielders on the bench.
No. I mean, it's a real shame for Lallana because it does look like he's out for the rest of the season now. So it's been a really tough year for him.
Yeah, I mean that's basically him not going to the World Cup. Do you know what I mean?
I wonder about his Liverpool career as well. To be honest with you.
Yeah, he's only made 13 appearances in all competitions this year. It's hard for him because he was really coming into form not so long ago, and this year's just set him back. Well, a couple of seasons, really.
And he's 29, by the way, so he's not, he's coming towards the end of the peak of his career, and so is he going to start to lose pace with the rest of the squad when you see how much we're building? And this is literally, like you mentioned before, getting left behind, and with Danny Ings.
Yeah, I don't know how much longer he's got with us, really. I'd like to think he's got another couple of seasons, but I can't see it being his first choice anymore.
If he can't stay fit, then, what are we going to do?
Is he going the same way as Sturridge?
You have to wonder, don't you?
Yeah. You get the horrible feeling that he might, don't you?
Yeah, I mean we'll have to see, but yeah. So around the 70th minute mark, we've made all our changes. And actually, it was really bizarre because, as you say, bringing Lovren on meant we had to change systems because there was we had three centre backs on the pitch all of a sudden, so we went sort of 3-5-2 with Firmino and Salah as two strikers basically, and a back three with Van Dijk, Matip, and Lovren in it. And actually, we sort of played better in this last 20 minutes than we had done all the rest of the game.
Yeah, we did. We looked more composed, really.
More in control and better defensively, and actually managed to create one or two other chances.
Yeah.
And thank God.
Yeah, because I mean, you could have guessed who the match winner was going to end up being.
Oh yeah, it is Mo Salah.
And I tell you what, I'm literally losing track of which goal was which in March. He scored 8 goals in 4 games. Yeah.
So this one, it's good work from Oxlade-Chamberlain again, who really this month established himself as a key part of our midfield. I have to say.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
He's looking like he's replaced Coutinho in such a different capacity, but one that is far more fitting of what Klopp does.
And yeah, like it's almost he's replaced Coutinho, but at the same time he's filled a role that we didn't have before.
No, I mean Lallana maybe was the kind of that first point of drive from the midfield prior to him being there, but particularly when you look at the balance of that midfield, when you've got Henderson who mostly now just sits deep, controls, he's got a good range of passing, and he can sort of track back and tackle. Try saying that 100 times.
Track back and tackle.
Yeah. I'll have a track back and tackle, please. And
will you now?
Yes. And then if you look at like James Milner, who seems to have suddenly become the creative enigma of our midfield, Oxlade-Chamberlain offers that kind of drive forward. So running, bursting, breaking lines, almost in that sort of Frank Lampard-esque type role, or very much like Stevie G in his prime. And I think he's sort of really. I mean, as we mentioned before, like you talk about our midfield three, Oxlade-Chamberlain has to be one of the first names in it, surely.
Yeah, he is. I was quite sceptical of his signing, and he's really proved me wrong. He's been a great player for us this season.
I'm delighted as well because he's a real character, which I say we don't really have that many of in the side.
And he's in the new livery advert.
He is. We always like a good livery advert, don't we?
Although this isn't the best one, to be honest. They're getting slowly worse.
Well, because you can never beat the first one.
Well, they came close with the second one, or I can't remember what it was now.
Well, there was the dinosaur one, which we mentioned.
The dinosaur one was sort of normal until the end when Milner suddenly got crushed by a dinosaur.
It was Raheem Sterling, Simon Mignolet, and Jordan Henderson in a thingy car, wasn't
Robin.
it?
Yeah,
which was just amazing.
Then there was a second one, which was equally mental but quite good.
I can't remember that.
Maybe that was when they threw all the water over Adam Lallana.
Maybe, it wasn't, nowhere near as exciting. But the latest one with Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain struggling to shave his chest hair.
Yeah, that was weird. Yeah, I didn't feel comfortable with
that. Oh well. So great player, building into the side, and we end the month with a bit of spark.
Yeah, and second in the table, having played a game more.
Still very comfortably in the top 4, which is the most important goal.
Yeah, and it's we can't say we've had an unbeaten month, which we could the month before, but lost 1, drew 1, won 3, scored 12. It was generally a pretty good month.
Yeah, absolutely. And, of course, going into the first game in April will be the Champions League first leg, so it's good to go in with a bit of confidence for probably the biggest game of the season so far.
Absolutely.
But that is for next month.
Yes.
So we move on to our regular feature throughout the season. It's the Despicable 11. And we are on to one of the most hotly anticipated episodes of the series. It is the number 9, the striker position. Now, just to explain how this works, we are going through 11 players to form a team of absolute trite that Liverpool have produced during the Premier League, as it is 25 years of the Premier League, and we thought we'd like to celebrate it in a way only we know how. So far we're up to number 9. We have gone 1 through 8, looking at a sort of typical 4-4-2, 4-4-1-1 sort of formation. I think, shall I go through the players we've picked so far, Owen?
Why don't we take it in turns, Matt?
Okay, you go first then.
Well, in goal we had Adam Bogdan,
who's still at the club.
Yep, somehow.
I like we're giving them all nicknames, which I quite like. So, it's like in one, he's still at the club. It's Adam Bogdan. In 2, he's made of glass. It's Philip Dagan.
And at number 3, it's that Cockney. See you next Tuesday, Paul Konchesky.
His mum hates Scousers. in at 4, it's not Eric Cantona. It's Isfan Cosma.
And at number 5 was...
Oh, here we go.
There we go. Testing me, old grey matter. Was that Torben Peachnik?
If you go down to the woods now, you'll find Torben Peachnik. In at 6, he just got fired. It's Mauricio Pellegrino.
Oh, yeah, of course it was. And at number 7 was Antonio Nunes.
Nunes the ball boy, Antonio Nunes. And in at 8, he's we haven't got a nickname for him. It's Joe Cole. Haven't actually got one for him yet.
Yeah.
It's Joe Cole.
It's Joe Cole. It sort of fits. He doesn't have a nickname. Do you know what I mean? A nickname sort of implies he was better than he was,
or more memorable than he was.
Yeah.
It's Joe Cole.
Joe Cole.
Anyway, playing at the head of a diamond formation in the number 8 role. This month it's number 9s, and I personally have quite a lot.
You do, and I'm struggling, not because we haven't had our fair share of awful number 9s, but I just because out and out strikers is this month's position that we're trying to fill, is it not?
Yes, it is.
And basically, because we've had quite a good team for the last couple of years, all the crap players tend to be a few years ago. And my memory being, as I'm sure regular listeners will know, awful. I can't really remember where a lot of people played. But we're gonna just run down memory lane of awful strikers.
Exactly. I mean, the rule kind of was if they played out and out as a striker and they're a very recognisable number 9, then we'd put them in this one. If they tended to play across the front line, maybe as a second striker or a false 9, or maybe they played left and right sometimes and then striker, so a more varied, modern position, say, then we put them in the number 10. So I think that's generally where we're at, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
So, I'd like to introduce my first one, if that's okay.
Go for it.
Because I think you'll agree that this one is, there's so many, this is going to be really hard work. But Mario Balotelli.
Oh, good shout.
Yeah, absolutely. What a farce this was. What an absolute farce. This is a complete saga. He was brought in to replace Luis Suarez. I mean, Jesus Christ. This was a desperate signing to cover from the goals lost from Suarez and also Sturridge's fitness concerns. And leaving us with only Ricky Lambert and Fabio Borini as forward-thinking players. And so, this was the triumvirate of shit that we decided to create. It was him or... no offence, sir. Well, Ricky Lambert tried hard, but no. And Fabio Borini didn't even flatter to deceive, he just deceived. And it was kind of him or Samuel Eto'o ended up being the kind of decision we had to make. And so we decided to take a punt on Mario Balotelli, which was a calculated gamble, according to Brendan Rodgers. 12 million quid. I mean, the worst 12 million quid Liverpool have ever spent. Simply astonishingly bad.
Can I say in his defence, or probably more likely in Brendan Rodgers' defence, is that this signing was always going to go one of two ways. And the way it went obviously turned out to be he was crap. But had he not been, and had he been sort of the player we saw at Man City, which we didn't necessarily have reason to think he wouldn't be, then 12 million was an absolute steal.
But he hadn't shown it much in his previous clubs that he, brought in from Milan and all the rest of it. He'd not seen anything like that.
No.
And he was the antithesis of what Liverpool are about. Slow, arrogant, just wombled around the pitch, which is not an expression I was expecting to use. Couldn't look like he couldn't be bothered. Didn't track back.
Did you say wombled around the pitch?
Yeah, just sort of wombled about, just plodded along, picking up trash. It's just, it was perhaps.
That makes him sound useful.
Well, yeah, I mean that which is not true. In many ways, it almost felt like a sign of Rodgers' arrogance that he wanted to sign him, because there was this part of him that thought he could be the saviour of Mario Balotelli, which no one is the saviour of Mario Balotelli.
I think what it was is he'd just lost a player who was mercurially talented, but also nuts in the head, which was Luis Suarez. Like, he had some actual problems wrong with him mentally. And Rodgers and the team at Liverpool did very well to keep Suarez sort of, for the most part, on the straight and narrow, and kept him sane. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the sort of last big controversy he did while he was a Liverpool player, that bite during the World Cup, was when he was with Uruguay rather than with Liverpool. And I think Rodgers, maybe it went to his head a bit and he thought he could sort of psychologically keep Suarez in check. Why not the same with Balotelli? But Balotelli was the sort of arrogant player that made Daniel Sturridge look like, the most wholesome and generous teammate you could have.
Which is a shame. Anyway, a year later, after he'd played a few games, been pretty, absolutely useless, ended up having to play Raheem Sterling up front because we just had no other options. He loaned him back out to Milan a year later, where he wasn't much better, and eventually let him go to Nice on a free. And he was just a total waste of everybody's time.
He's been... I mean, how many goals did he end up scoring for us?
Single figures, I think.
In total, he scored 4 goals for us, which was 1 in the League Cup, 2 in Europe, and 1 in the league.
He scored 1 in the league? Wow.
He scored 1 goal in the league for us, which was 33%. Sorry, 0.33%. Or something, I don't know. Basically, Bobby Firmino has scored 3 times as many league goals as Mario Balotelli did, with his eyes closed.
This season, yeah.
Yeah. Mental.
Anyway, that's the level, that's the bar we're setting, and it's pretty low.
Okay, well, let me see if I can find one equally low. Surely you can't get much more despicable than Christian Benteke.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, he signed the season after Balotelli. He was sort of replacing Balotelli, I guess. Benteke. And he seemed to have everything when we signed him. He seemed like it was a really good deal, because if nothing else, it would stop him scoring against us. But he just... I don't know. He had about 2 months working with Brendan Rodgers when he looked decent. And when he looked like, actually this was a good signing after all. And then Rodgers got fired, Klopp came in, and he just never really fit into the new Liverpool, did he?
Not at all.
As I say, he started the season really well. He scored his first goal against Bournemouth. He scored an absolute screamer against Man United on a game that I watched in an internet cafe in Camden, when I also found out that Jeremy Corbyn had been elected leader of Labour Party. That was quite a memorable day, that one. Yeah, in a number of ways. Yeah, but it's just... he never really kind of... After that, he faded quite quickly. I think his low point, weirdly, his real low point, was actually a game when most other Liverpool players would call it, the highlight of their Liverpool career, which was when he was named as captain. And you think, oh, he's been named as captain. Why is that such a low point? Like, surely that's a massive compliment to both not only his skills on the pitch, but his leadership and his vision and his confidence in his ability to get his teammates to rally around him, and his experience, and what an accolade. But it was when we played Exeter City away in the FA Cup third round, and he was the most experienced Liverpool player on the pitch, despite having only played 21 games or so. Because this was a team where, he was the second most experienced, after Jose Enrique. This was a team containing Jose Enrique, Adam Bogdan, Thiago Ilori, Cameron Brannigan, Ryan Kent, Kevin Stewart, Conor Randall. It's not really a team you want to be captain of.
No.
If we're honest. If you're like... Well, I mean, that sounds harsh, but if I was like Conor Randall or Cameron Brannigan, I'd have been absolutely over the moon to captain that team. But if I was like a sort of £30 million striker who was supposed to be one of the first teamers and first name on the team sheet, to find myself schlepping it down to Exeter on a Friday night to play alongside Shea Ojo and
Jerome Sinclair,
and Jerome Sinclair and Joe Maguire, for crying out loud, I'd feel ever so slightly cheesed off.
Absolutely.
And the worst thing is, he was one of the worst players on the pitch that night.
He didn't even score.
Didn't even look like he was bothered. Like, maybe he just took it as quite an insult. But yeah, when you're being shown up by Jerome Sinclair and you've cost £32.5 million, you've got to ask some serious questions.
It was bad, wasn't it? I mean, it was clearly just a bad fit for our style of play. Do you know what I mean? And it just seemed to drain his confidence completely, and still has, because obviously we ended up somehow managing to recoup most of the fee as Crystal Palace needed goals. The irony. And he's not looked any better there, really.
He's not. He's we said not 20 minutes ago about when he played against us this month and just shanked them wide and over the bar, and he did, in fairness to him, come back to haunt us last April, didn't he?
Yeah.
When he scored twice in a 2-1 win in a fairly humiliating defeat towards the end of the season for us. But he's just not looked for player since. And every time you watch him now, you think, how did we ever spend 32 million on him?
I think it proves that Paul Lambert could be the best manager in the world.
Paul Lambert?
For getting the best out of him at Aston Villa.
Oh, of course, yeah, I forgot he was at Aston Villa.
Yeah. That's where we signed him from.
Yeah, I know. Well, I know we signed him from Villa, but I forgot Paul Lambert was at Villa.
Yeah, he was the one who brought him there and got the best out of him. So yeah, we've had two big strikers already. So I'm going to add a third in, and let's talk about the tale of Andy Carroll.
Yes, he was. All of these players have got a kind of common link, really, haven't they? In that we spent way over the odds for them, and I think their careers were almost doomed as soon as we bought them. Because, like Andy Carroll especially, we paid what, 35 million for him?
It's an astonishingly stupid amount of money.
Which, in fairness,
at the time, that was more than we'd ever spent for anyone, and that was a lot. Whereas now we've signed about 7 or 8 players for about as much or more than that. So 35 million no longer seems like a big amount, and it's actually quite like parochial to look back and think, God, 35 million was our record signing. Like, that's really not that much. Do you know what I mean? Well, not in today's market, no. But I mean, at the time, that was a colossal amount of money.
It was, but it really doesn't feel like it was long enough ago that is such. You know what I mean? It's a measure of how quickly everything has changed.
Well, it's the Neymar thing, isn't it? That's what it is. That's what's done it. Everything has spiraled out with control after that.
Neymar and Bale, and but it's just it does baffle me to think that was only 6 or 7 years ago, and yet it was such a comparatively piddly sum of money.
Well, it would be like us spending 75-80 million quid on him now. That's relatively.
Yeah, which would be ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous.
Like it was then when we signed him for 35 million on the final day of the transfer window at the same time as Luis Suarez. And I mean, I can't understand why we paid this much, because he was good for Newcastle, but he wasn't great. Like, he wasn't this legendary brilliant striker. It never made any sense. And he was not really suited to Liverpool really in any way. His injury record was astonishingly poor. And it was it almost felt like a desperate move to try and get goals in after Torres was going to leave.
It was his injury record, really, we did for him, wasn't it? Is that we just never really saw him fit.
Well, he was injured when we signed him, which, again, just... Ugh. But, yeah, and then for the rest of the season, when he got fit, he never really got going,
It never bodes well. When a player is injured when you sign them, it never ends up in... Look at, Antonio Nunes, Alberto Aquilani, Karius. Maybe Karius is the exception that proves the rule there, but it's just, it always kind of sets the alarm bells ringing. And, I mean, he gave us a year and a half, did he, Andy Carroll?
Yeah, I mean, he did give us one full season and did score a few important goals, most famously the FA Cup semi-final against Everton. Also scored the winner against Blackburn and scored the winner in the FA Cup. Scored the consolation goal for us in that FA Cup final. But, I mean...
that Blackburn game was a great game.
Yeah, where Brad Jones and Donny and the whole goalkeeper fiasco thing.
That's it.
But as soon as Rodgers came in, it was clear he was never going to fit into what Rodgers wanted to do. And so we loaned and then sold him to West Ham in the following 2 seasons for 15 million, which kind of shows you just how much of a waste of money that was, 20 million down the drain. The only thing I would say in his defence was a lot of these problems weren't exactly his fault. Unlucky for injuries, the price tag wasn't his decision.
No.
And the fact he didn't really fit into Liverpool's squad system either, again, that's not really his fault, So I just, unlike the other two, where I think the lack of effort, a lack of desire, a lack of talent, I think this was just a case of he was just he was given a horrendous set of circumstances and could only really deliver the same.
I mean, I would say where did it go wrong for him, but it just never went right at all, did it? It just never...
Hardly ever, no.
He never looked like he was ever going to be good. It's... And yet he wasn't actively bad, do you know what I mean? He was just... Like you said, none of it was necessarily his fault. He'd had a few controversies as a person at Newcastle, hadn't he? Personality-wise. But he never really had any of that for us. He was never dislikable or objectionable or woefully poor Balotelli or Benteke had been. He was just underwhelmingly Yeah, not
great. So
okay, well, let's have a think and who else there is to throw into the mix for our Despicable 11. I'm going to stick my neck out and say maybe Ricky Lambert.
Okay.
Which is difficult for me because Ricky Lambert is probably the most likeable of all the 4 players we've said so far. I mean, he is probably the closest modern football comes to Roy of the Rovers.
Yeah.
Unless you count Jamie Vardy and that episode of Roy of the Rovers where he racially abused Japanese people. But they weren't even Japanese, were they? That in itself is racist.
You absolute racist.
No, I said Roy of the Rovers racially abused Japanese people. Jamie Vardy did it to Thai people.
Yeah. I'd move on if I were you.
If I've got that wrong, that is an error of memory rather than, geography or anything. Honestly, he started. He originally worked in a beetroot canning factory or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and somehow kind of moved up the Football League. He quite cunningly joined Southampton when they were one of their lowest ebbs in League One, and sort of travelled up the leagues with them. And suddenly he was a Premier League striker, and he was banging the goals in, despite being pretty much in his 30s. And it was from there that he kind of got noticed for England, and called up to England for the first time at the age of 31. Scored on his England debut with his first touch of the game after 2 minutes. He scored again in his second England game. So he had 100% England record for a while, and all of this kind of combined that when the close season at the end of the 13-14 season came around, he was a boyhood Liverpool fan, obviously he was a Scouser. And so we swooped for him, and it was a move entirely motivated by romance and sentiment. I really hope, because if Brendan Rodgers genuinely looked at Luis Suarez leaving and thought, I know, I'll replace him with 32-year-old Ricky Lambert, then that's kind of depressing. But it was beautiful in a way. Like, it was a transfer everyone wanted to see happen. It cost us £4 million, and it was literally a dream come true for the man. I kind of look back on it now and can't quite believe it happened.
No. Well, there's a couple of things I would add to that. Don't forget, he actually was an LSE youth player until the age of 15.
Oh, yeah. God, I've forgotten that.
So, yeah, he was literally returning. Did you say, yeah, Southampton, brilliant time, a consistent Premier League goal scorer, I would say that, in a team who did seem to play a similar way to the way Liverpool did, so I can see the logic there, particularly because he was considered to be a bit more of a plan B, sort of a different type of striker to the ones we had in Sturridge and Barini at the time, and obviously later Balotelli. But I just think he was signed at the wrong time of his career. He was just starting on his downturn. Yeah. And so, he scored a few goals, but they were all away from home, never scored at Anfield, sadly.
Yeah, that's a shame.
And never really got a look in, and when he did, he struggled. And I mean, he left to go to West Brom a year later, so, a couple of years after that, he retired. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you say he signed at the wrong time, and I think it's clear that you're right, but at the same time, I don't think he could have signed at any other time.
Oh, no.
Because we'd never have signed him before that summer, because he just never proved himself. Like that season before he signed him, he got 13 goals in the league, which is actually a decent return. I think he got 15 league goals the season before. That's a good striker. Sort of 15 goals, 13 goals. That's decent. That's kind of what Gerrard was getting for a few years in a row. It was an entirely sentimental move.
Well, I don't agree it's entirely sentimental. I do see the tactical reasons for doing it.
I mean, I think he was just...
Because that's what we were criticised for, not having a plan B the year before, which is why we didn't win the title. So I can kind of see that Brendan Rodgers was trying to get one in. That's where it comes from.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. I mean, I can't call him despicable. He was not up to Liverpool standard, and that was painfully obvious. But just for sheer, it was like when we re-signed Robbie Fowler, and it's just for sheer, literally kind of inexplainably random transfer that's just heartwarming but baffling.
Yeah.
It was really nice to see, and I'm surprised he's not been a member of Liverpool Legends team yet.
No, he has only just retired though, so I guess.
I suppose, but I mean, he's a sort of... I know you would not look at his performance and call him a Liverpool legend, but in the same way that Paul Harrison went on to play for Liverpool Masters a few times, despite never actually playing a first team game for Liverpool. I wouldn't be surprised to see Lambert join the team.
Yeah, pop up at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're kind of right to nominate him here. I'm going to move on quick just because I've got so many more names to get through. Here's one I've been looking forward to talking about for a while. Milan Jovanovic.
Oh, yes. My favourite thing about Milan Jovanovic was actually because I think he signed for us... I can't remember if it was before or after the 2010 World Cup.
After, but we'd agreed it before. It was actually signed by Benitez, but Benitez left that summer.
That's it. So when we were watching him at the 2010 World Cup, it was in the knowledge that he was coming to Liverpool. And it was a fantastic game where he scored for Serbia. I think it was against Germany. And he ran off to celebrate with the fans, jumped the advertising hoarding, not realising that between the advertising hoarding and the fence stopping fans getting on the pitch, there was a 6-foot trench. And so the camera was following him from behind, and he ran over to the fans, left this advertising hoarding, and then just vanished. And it was just brilliantly comical, and that moment is far better than anything he ever did for Liverpool.
Yeah, it's he signed from Liège in 2010, as you mentioned. He had a great goal record for them, and as you say, he famously scored a winner against Germany and fell into a no man's land of a trench. It was a bit of a confusing signing, though. I mean, he was partly a victim of circumstance in that Benitez wanted him. Obviously, then Benitez left and Hodgson came in, and the Hodgson reign was the turd that it was. He was just poor all over the pitch. Like, he wasn't a very good goal scorer. He wasn't very good at imaginative running. He had no pace. He had not a lot of skill. No, not loved by anyone really, in truth.
Yeah.
And the only goal he got was in that Northampton League Cup defeat.
Oh God, yeah. He was very much. This will sound insulting, but he was a classic Europa League footballer, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was he was never a Champions League player. He was a Europa League player who should never have really been at a club like Liverpool. But then at the time, that was about our level.
Well, it was a bad player for a bad time, really.
Interestingly, Benitez tried to, after Benitez left, after we signed him, he tried to take him with him.
Really?
Benitez tried to, because he then joined Inter Milan, and he tried to convince Ivanovic to sort of scrap the pre-contract agreement and join Inter Milan instead. But
Right.
But Ivanovic said no, he wanted to honour his commitment to Liverpool.
Oh, well. What a mistake from all parties.
Yeah. Have you heard the thing about him and Neighbours?
Is this another Kenny Babbles situation?
This is genuinely true. There was an episode of Neighbours in October 2011, so not even when he was playing for Liverpool anymore, when one character, the son of Paul Robinson, described him as one of the greatest footballers in the world.
What?
And we've no idea why. I've not been able to find out why that was. I think it was like something to do with one of the writers of the show was a Liverpool fan, or like one of the actors was a Liverpool fan, or was just taking the piss. But yeah, he was described on Australian television as one of the greatest footballers in the world.
That is magnificent.
I mean, what the hell?
Wow, gone down in history for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah. Okay, who else is there to mention then? Like, I know there's a few. I'm wondering, is there a case to be made for Fernando Morientes?
Yes, there is.
You know what? I remember when Fernando Morientes joined us, someone said he was a missing piece of a puzzle that would help us secure our 19th league title. I mean, that sounds remarkably naive in hindsight, doesn't it?
It does.
So we signed him in... Was it January 2005?
It was indeed.
Yeah, so it was the year we won the Champions League, but he was obviously cup tied, so he couldn't actually play for us. I don't think we missed him, to be honest. He had a remarkably understated Liverpool career. He got one goal every 5 games. Although he did win the Super Cup, I think he was allowed to play in that. He was just he was just not very good.
But he was like one of the best players in the world for a while.
He was, and like he was to be signing Fernando Morientes was like a massive statement.
Mm.
And I mean, this requires almost a suspension of disbelief, this feature, because some of these players, you forget just how sought after they were when we signed them, compared to when we tried to get rid of them. You know what I mean? Like Benteke was a massive, like for us to get Benteke rather than someone like Man United, it was a massive feather in our cap. And almost the same with Balotelli. It was a great coup for us, but it was just like, yeah, I just remember thinking he couldn't play in England because he later came back to Wembley or somewhere similar with the Spanish national side, and this was after he'd left us again. But he was awful. He was terrible. Like he was shanking them left, right, and centre. And yeah, I think just something about him he couldn't. You know how some players just can't do it in another country.
Yeah,
a bit like Jonathan Woodgate in Spain. But yeah, he was just. He only scored 8 league goals for us in 18 months.
Scored a few in Europe though.
He scored the 2006-2007 season, I think. And he played in the FIFA Club World Championship final, but yeah, he was just not very good.
It was a wonderful player who just joined at the wrong time. Do you know what I mean? I think because he lacked that sharpness from his not really playing at Real Madrid, where he's sort of fallen out of favour, and it was clear he was on a downward trajectory in his career, and he was kind of just brought in for striker cover. under Benitez. He was meant to be kind of, as you say, like a part of the missing piece of this jigsaw, but it never happened, and clearly the Premier League just didn't suit him. And so he left to go to Valencia 18 months later. So,
and suddenly he was great again.
Yeah, because it's just England, isn't it?
Yeah, but again, we sold him for £3 million. Now, even then, that seemed a very small amount of money, but now you think, because that was only 18 months after we signed him, so it's not like he was, we destroyed him. He was just, ironically, he ended up kind of signing for us because he couldn't get in the Real Madrid team because of Michael Owen.
Didn't that work out well for no one?
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. You kind of just ruined several careers at once, really.
Yeah, I did like this phrase. I don't know if you've seen this. What Chris Bascom said of Morientes. Morientes is a bit like bird flu. He's been lethal in other countries, and we keep getting told it's only a matter of time before he makes his mark here. I thought that was very funny. So yeah, another good number. God, there's so many bad players. Another one I'm going to throw in the mix. I'm surprised you haven't mentioned him yet. I don't know if you considered him more as a number 10, but he is absolutely a number 9, both in terms of the shirt number he wore and the way he plays. Is Igo Aspas.
Oh my God, of course, yeah.
Did you forget about Igo Aspas?
I didn't. I mean, I did. If you know what I mean.
My first note on him is just a complete tit.
That's harsh.
It's not, and I'll tell you for why. We brought him in from Celta Vigo.
We did.
Who had been promoted and relegated in 2 consecutive seasons with him playing, where he'd been their top scorer. And, I mean, he was kind of wanted by a few clubs, interestingly. Again, another one. And he scored goals for them and looked good, but he was dreadful for us. Do you know what I mean? Like, it never looked anywhere near the quality, looked completely out of his depth. Only scored 1 goal for us, which is a Liverpool number 9, is just abysmal. That was a home to Oldham in the FA Cup.
Yeah. See, I think he didn't have much of a chance.
Oh, I disagree.
How many games
season?
How many games did he play for us?
20, 30 odd, something like that.
But in terms of minutes, it was mainly like kind of. I'm going to look this up actually because I get the feeling that for a lot of that, he would come on for sort of 10 minutes at the end. You know what I mean?
It was Suarez, Sturridge, Sterling, wasn't it? To be fair.
Yeah, it was a remarkably hard team to force yourself into when you've got the SAS in front of you, as they were known. He would have had to be exceptional to be a first choice striker. It'd be a bit like Danny Ings now, kind of sort of keeping Bobby Firmino out of the team. It's just.
But then I guess when things weren't going so well, you needed him to kind of come on and show quality that we sort of hadn't basically... Because obviously, Suarez in that season, don't forget, didn't play for the first few months because he was banned. So Aspas was one of the main focal points, and he was dreadful.
Mm.
Look, let's be honest. There's only one thing every Liverpool fan on earth remembers about Igo Aspas.
Yeah, it's that corner, isn't it?
That corner. And if that's what you're remembered for as a Liverpool player... You have to be nominated for the Despicable 11.
Yeah, I mean, actually,
talk us through the corner, but I've got something to say after that.
I mean, essentially, we are 1-0 down against Chelsea. A few minutes to go. We need a point would be enough. So we needed 1 goal. We'd thrown on every forward player we could. And for some reason, we got a corner, and for some reason, Igo Aspas goes over to take it, as opposed to, I don't know, Steven Gerrard, or, one of our best delivery takers of all time. Igo Aspas goes over to take it, runs up to it like a 6-year-old boy in a playground, kicks it, one of the worst corners you will ever see in your life, flat, low, 20 yards outside the area. Next thing you know, they've gone up the field, and Fernando Torres has scored against us.
Yeah.
And lost us the title.
It was all... It's laughable now, but at the time it was just hideous.
It was about about as bad a set piece delivery as I've ever seen a Liverpool player take, and yes, that's why. But it's not the only reason I've nominated him. But I'd like you to tell me what you're going to tell me first.
Well, I was going to say, in terms of awful set pieces, wasn't there also a Jose Enrique free kick?
Yes, I was thinking that.
And there was a particularly bad Milan Jovanovic moment as well, I seem to remember.
Oh, really?
It was yeah. If you YouTube Milan Jovanovic Arsenal, I meant to say this at the time. There's a fantastic moment where he kind of it's like a clearance, and he's running to clear it a bit further, and basically attempts a diving header and misses it completely. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
I can't remember it now.
It's worth watching because it is truly horrendous. it actually makes Aspas's corner look better because it's just utterly amateur.
I do love things like that.
But
yeah.
Well, Aspas went on to have a really successful career.
This is another annoying reason why he went to Sevilla after a year and eventually ended up back at Celta Vigo, where he basically took them to a Europa League semi-final. He's got a better than 1 and 2 goal record with them, and he scored on his international debut. Now, where the bloody hell was this guy?
Scored on his international debut against England.
Yeah.
And it was an absolute screamer, I seem to remember.
Where was he? Where was this bloke?
I think he was like Morientes. I just don't think he could do it in England. I think he struggled with the language. He struggled with the physicality. He didn't get much of a chance. He played 16 times for us. 9 of those were as a substitute. He hardly actually got. And if I was Brendan Rodgers, I wouldn't have given him a chance. You've got Suarez and Sturridge playing. Why the hell would you take out one of those to put Aspas on? But and I won't say like you said about Lambert, it was just the wrong time. Because I don't think there would have been a right time. I just think he was not good enough.
No, he wasn't.
He was still, or not even not good enough, not right for us. And if you asked, is Benteke a good player the summer before we signed him? You'd say, yeah, he's a great player, but it doesn't mean he's the right player for us. You know what I mean?
No, the system he's trying to fit into.
What's really weird is that he's actually one of a few Liverpool players in history to have played international football for 2 different teams.
Oh, really?
He's played for Spain, obviously, and I think he's got a record of. I think he's got a 50% record for the national team. He's scored 4 in 8. I think, but he's also played for the Galician national football team,
Right.
which is like they have in Spain. All these kind of autonomous sort of bits like Catalonia and the Basque region and all of that. And Galicia is another one, and they have their own national football team that isn't recognised by anyone, that he's played 1 game for in 2016.
Wow, interesting fact for you there.
Because I think it's most of the players we've got that have played international football for different teams have either been Spanish, like Xabi Alonso, who played for the Basque region, and Antonio Barragan, I think, who played for... I think he played for Galicia, or yeah, he did as well. Or someone like Craig Bellamy, who played for Great Britain and Wales.
Interesting.
That's just a brief aside. Who else is despicably number 9?
Well, there's a few I'll sort of discuss in slightly lesser detail. I was going to bring up David and Gog, which we mentioned last time.
David and Gog was actually great for us when he was probably our best striker at the time we had him.
Yeah, it says a lot.
Yeah,
he was signed on the cheap as a young player from PSG. We didn't really expect a huge amount, but he played an awful lot of games for us. You sort of forget, if you look at the stats, it's actually quite remarkable. And he had a pretty poor goal scoring record. Just happened to be fit when all the other strikers were out at the time. And was around he was around for 3 years as well.
He was only just shy of 100 games for us, which is remarkable for someone who was pretty rubbish.
I mean, as I say, he was just fit when no one else was. That was the thing.
Yeah,
he was always available to play. And he was never really of the standard required. Eventually superseded by other strikers who came in.
He's just signed for Ross County, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has indeed, under Owen Coyle, I believe.
Yeah, who is with Bolton. Yeah.
He was, yeah. So that's cause that's where we sold him after 3 years. So
that's right.
Not great. Not the worst we've mentioned today, but just more surprising how many games he played for us. A couple of other names: Karl-Heinz Riedler.
Oh yeah, that's going back into the history books a bit, isn't it?
Well, we've got to mention them. Signed as an experienced player for Roy Evans' young squad, but his best years were evidently behind him. He was actually at one point one of the most expensive players in the world when he signed for Lazio in 1990. And and did actually score twice in a Champions League final. Dortmund beat Juventus in 1997.
Wow.
In fact, we signed in the year after, so...
Just as he became rubbish again.
Yeah, well, everything was sort of downhill from there, really. He started both seasons as first choice for us, but was ousted by Fowler and Owen in respective seasons, and ended up being a backup striker. It's quite funny. I've read a couple of things about him. One that said he seemed to have no idea what the offside rule was. He'd constantly get caught offside. And then after 2 years left to go to Fulham, very underwhelming. Where actually Roy Evans was managing at the time. So
Oh.
yeah. So when Roy Evans left, he took Riedler with him, and Riedler finished his career there. So yeah, a great player, just not the right time for us. I'm also going to mention in that same bracket Eric Media as well.
He became a sort of cult hero, Eric Media.
Well, that's it.
More for his kind of off the pitch style than his on the pitch style.
Yeah, I mean, Hoole did sign him in 1999 from Leverkusen as he wanted a big striker to pair up alongside Fowler and Owen. But he struggled a lot for us for the 1 year. He was only there for a year and struggled to get into the team. He actually ended up scoring in one game. He scored 2 at Hull in a League Cup match.
And this was when Hull were like a 4th division team as well.
Yeah, so it was that was kind of his. Unfortunately, that was his level. Certainly in England, ended up loaning him out to Preston for half a season before he eventually joined Hamburg. But as you say, he was a bit of a cult hero. Weirdly, he was a big character, a really good guy, down to earth, worked really hard for the team, a bit like Dirk Kuyt, only with less talent. And
That's fair.
there was footage of him actually seen dancing and partying with in Dortmund when we won the 2001 UEFA Cup.
Yeah,
with the fans.
Yeah, he did that sort of thing a lot. I think he really, when they had the Liverpool website ran a thing called 100 Players Who Shook the Cop in 2006, and despite being a pretty crap footballer, he was in that top 100.
Extraordinary.
Yeah, of the sort of the best 100 players to play for Liverpool, or like most groundbreaking players, and he was number 99. Which is mad. But
shows you that he had an impact on the club. But unfortunately not a very good player. So
yeah,
that's the thing. And one other player I want to mention as well is it's maybe a little bit harsh, but I'm going to put Djibril Cissé in here as well.
Yeah, I thought of him, but I think that is harsh. And because even more so than someone like Andy Carroll, he was, injuries ruined him. It's
true. I mean, he was one of the reason I kind of put him in here is because of what he delivered for us versus what was promised, and that's he was one of Europe's hottest properties.
He was.
When he signed in 2004 with a goal record of 70 and 120 at Auxerre where he was playing, a lot of teams wanted him and we got him. Unfortunately, he was wanted by Houllier, who then got ousted and had to work under Benitez instead, which didn't help because Benitez wasn't really a fan.
No, and it was one of those awkward things, a bit like Jovanovic, but he was better to begin with. But, he wasn't wanted from the start. And in a modern equivalent, I guess that's someone like Osama Assaidi?
Maybe, yeah. Slightly different context, but yeah.
Yeah, but some of the manager never really wanted at the club. And yet he was kind of turning into a decent player. And then he just, it was those broken legs.
I mean, yeah, the image went around the world. It was horrific. Don't go looking it up if you're squeamish.
Yeah, he basically caught his studs in the turf while he got tackled, and his leg snapped.
You can see the bone coming out and stuff. Oh.
Yeah, it was actually he said later that had it not been for kind of quick and professional medical attention, he might have actually had to have his lower part of his leg amputated.
Yeah, it was that bad.
Yeah, and he did the same thing the next season. Am I right in thinking that?
I don't know. Did he?
It was he broke. So when he left us, he went to Marseille. And then in the early, I think not long after he signed for Marseille, it was in an international game. It was in 2006, and
Yeah, he broke his leg again, and
The same leg.
I think it might have been the same tibia as well, and
Oh,
he was just screaming like he was so unlucky with broken legs.
God,
It's
that's
almost
awful.
like-
It's awful, isn't it?
Yeah.
He did score some important goals for us, though. They can't discount that. You know, second penalty in Istanbul, first goal in the
Yep.
2006 FA Cup final.
Yeah. He scored a brace in the Super Cup final.
Mm.
I remember him more though for less his goals than his just general oddnesses. I remember in the FA Cup final he wore 2 different coloured boots. He wore like one red boot and one blue boot on each leg. He bought like a manor house in Cheshire, and so became Lord of the Manor.
Amazing.
Like a tiny little village that was still basically the village was owned by like the squire, and he became Lord of the Manor of Frodsham. And he refused to let the local fox hunters hunt on his land.
Oh, there you go.
He bought it.
That's quite good.
He had a cameo in a French film called Taxi 4.
Nice.
He was on the French version of Strictly Come Dancing.
Oh, cool.
He was arrested over a blackmail plot involving a sex tape.
I remember that, yeah.
And he's got a successful DJ career.
Isn't he still playing as well?
Well, weirdly, he retired in 2015 and then has recently started again.
Yeah, playing in Switzerland, I believe.
Yeah, with Yverdon, I think.
Yverdon.
Yverdon or something like that, yeah. Which is basically, sounds like the foreign version of Everton. Yverdon.
Yverdon. Yeah, it does.
But when he left us, he went to Marseille, Sunderland, Panathinaikos, Lazio, Queen's Park Ranger, Bastia, Sam Piraz, and Cuban Krasnodar.
There you go.
And Al Jarafa as well.
Extraordinary series of clubs. I thought it was worth mentioning here because he'd never, I say most of the injuries never got to where he could easily have done. Have you got anyone else?
Off the top of my head, no. I think we've said them all.
Oh, we haven't. Oh, no, we haven't. I have been looking forward to talking about this player from the moment I came up with this feature.
Go on.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Sean Dundee.
Oh my God, how could I forget Sean Dundee?
How can anyone forget the legend that is Sean Dundee? Surely on a par with Ali Dia as one of the worst Premier League strikers of all time.
Well, I think that's even a bit harsh on Sean Dundee. Wasn't Ali Dia like not even a real person or something like that?
There's a long story behind that, but we signed him from Karlsruhe SC.
Karlsruhe.
I can't pronounce it. Yeah, there you go. German team in 1998 as cover for the injured Robbie Fowler, who was out for a little while, and so we wanted to get a striker in to cover him. He only really played a few games for us as a late substitute, but it was plainly obvious he was less a footballer and more a mascot. He was dreadful. He was ill-disciplined off the pitch. Didn't turn up late for training. Didn't follow the instructions of the manager. Just wanted to do what he wanted to do. Didn't care about anybody else. Didn't join in with team trainings or team meals, whatever it is. A part of that. And was just so bad. It was extraordinary why or how we ever thought about signing this joke of a player. After 6 months, he left to go to Austria Wien. And interestingly, considering he was only in his mid-20s when he joined us, he then went on to have a career, and he only scored 15 more goals.
What, in his career?
Yeah, after he left.
Bloody hell.
That's how bad he was, right? That's a 7-8 year career after that. Another story that just sums up this man that I just think is hysterical and hilarious and terrible. He was in the squad for South Africa for I think one of their World Cup qualifiers or something. But he was snubbed to play in a game against Australia and was so annoyed that he changed his allegiance to then be for Germany, right?
Yeah.
Because he was so annoyed about it. Because he's half German, half South African, grew up in Germany, whatever. But he was never picked for Germany. So You know, total utter garbage and just a cult hero of awfulness. Kind of sums up Sean Dundee. I mean, the
Yeah.
reason he's famous is because of how bad he was.
Hmm. He was he is probably commonly regarded as the worst Liverpool player in history, isn't he?
Certainly in modern times, yeah.
Yeah. I love that something else we've talked about on this show. I mean, I love the not playing for Germany thing. That's wonderful. But we discussed before he had his own computer game.
Yeah, how?
Was it Sean Dundee's World Club Football?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, still to this day, the one football-based video game I can't find any information on. No, I can't find any pictures. I can't find any videos. I have absolutely no idea how this game looked, how it worked.
I've really tried to find you a copy as well. After we did that feature, I looked long and hard to try and get a copy for you.
It just
as
doesn't
your
exist.
Christmas present. And yeah, I think it must just be. Maybe it's an urban myth, like all those Pac-Mans that they buried somewhere.
Or a Durban myth. South Africa joke there, we.
That is actually quite a good South Africa joke.
Thank you.
That's yeah. I'm impressed. Did Baker used to call him Crocodile Dundee, or have I imagined that?
I mean, if you have imagined it, it's better than anything else he's done. So.
Well, I don't know. Sean Dundee's World Club Football is pretty good.
Yeah, true.
Because I'm just looking at the cover of it now. I found the cover of the game.
Yeah.
And it does look like something you do, like if you're in year 7 and you're in like an ICT lesson, and your task is to use Google Images and PowerPoint and Photoshop to make your own computer game.
Yeah.
And it looks like that's what he's made. Do you know what I mean? Sean, just for font and everything is like Microsoft Word art. Do you know what I mean?
It's so bad. But then I have no idea how bad it is because no one seems to have played it and no one seems to own a copy.
Oh, I really want to play it.
I just want to know what it's like. It's like the holy grail of ridiculously nerdy football video games.
Another thing I like about Sean Dundee is that he played for one of the best kind of American-named football clubs not in America.
Which was?
Kickers Offenbach.
What?
You know, we always go on about how great, sort of 1970s American football teams were called.
Oh, Kickers Offenbach.
Kickers Offenbach. But they were in Germany. They weren't an American football team. They were just named like one. And they were either called the Offenbach Kickers or Kickers Offenbach.
Offenbacher Football Club Kickers, 1901 is their full name.
I mean, it's not even it's a great name, but it's not a good name. Like Offenbach Kickers, that is the bare minimum you would expect from a football team, isn't it? That they could kick. It's not like the San Diego Wizards or whatever, is it? It's Kickers. What's the most defining characteristic about your team? Oh, well, they kick. Really? I thought we'd head the ball all the way along the pitch and play like steals. Literally, the bare minimum you'd expect from footballers. Maybe that's why Sean Dundee played for them, because they had such low expectations. But anyway, sorry, I'll stop talking about Kickers Offenbach now.
Oh, that's fine. I'm just enjoying it, but
very satisfying to say. Kickers Offenbach.
Kickers Offenbach. Well, after that long and arduous journey through the deluge of despicable 11s, 9s indeed, despicable 9s, despicable 11, we need to find a striker.
I mean, there are so many there. I
tell you what, I'm going to go through, and we're going to go yes, no, maybe.
Okay.
And then from there we'll pick. So I'm going to go through all the players I've got on my list, and if we decide yes, no, maybe, then we can find a filter, because that's probably the easiest way of organise this. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think let's go maybe or no, so that we've narrowed down the pile.
Okay. I go Aspas.
Maybe.
Maybe Balotelli.
Maybe.
Benteke.
No.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Only because he had a good couple of months for us, and then it's not really his fault for managers change, and yeah.
Okay, Andy Carroll?
No.
No, I agree with you. Djibril Cissé?
Definitely not.
Sean Dundee?
Yes, maybe.
Yes, I'm putting him in as a maybe. Milan Jovanovic?
Maybe.
Maybe. Ricky Lambert?
No.
Eric Media?
Didn't really play enough to be bad, so no.
No. Fernando Morientes?
I'm
going to have to put maybe, I think, just because of what he was like.
Yeah. I mean, he was pretty bad.
Yeah, I have to put him in there. David and Gog?
No.
Karl-Heinz Riedler?
Oh, it was a bit. I can't really remember him too well.
No, I think we'll leave him out of this one for now.
Yeah, we've got enough to. So where does that leave us then? That's still about 5, isn't it?
5 players. We have Igo Aspas, Mario Balotelli, Sean Dundee, Milan Jovanovic, and Fernando Morientes. That is a dinner party nobody wants to have.
Yeah, no, I'd love to have that as a dinner party. I think that would be amazing fun. Do you know what I mean?
Amazing fun.
Amazing fun, man. I'm auditioning for the hosting job on Britain's Got Talent.
Talent. I'm Dick and I'm Owen.
I've heard there's a job going, and I'm determined to get it.
Your name's quite good for a Geordie accent. I'm Owen.
Owen Collins.
Owen Collins.
Was it the Sarah Millican joke? Cheryl Tweedy, and then she became Cheryl Tweedy, and then she became Cheryl Cool.
Cool.
The only way she could have 2 better Geordie sounding surnames is if she married a man called Mr. Bunky or Mr. Photocopier.
Photocopier. Kawasaki
motorbike. Monkey's forehead.
Okay, we should stop this now. We're losing our one Newcastle listener.
We won't mind.
No. Our weir man, he won't mind.
Weird man. Weird.
Oh dear. So, any of those take your fancy?
God. I mean, Jovanovic.
Who? Go on.
Jovanovic was dreadful. Sean Dundee was dreadful. Morientes just wasn't good enough. So I think let's knock off Fernando Morientes.
I agree.
Balotelli, just everything he represented was bad. Like attitude, like lack of ambition, lack of finished product. You know, his comments after he left. So let's keep Balotelli, Dundee and Jovanovic in there. Who was the other one?
Igo Aspas.
He's turned out to be really good in Spain, so I just think it was, wrong place, wrong time. So let's give Aspas a reprieve.
Okay.
Which, might be controversial, but I think most people could agree we've got 3 worse players than Aspas there. And certainly more decisive.
Yeah.
I think, to be honest, Jovanovic was bad, but he was just out of his depth as well, whereas the other 2 were almost... Jovanovic was bad, but then everyone associated with the Hodgson era was bad.
And he wasn't a Hodgson signing, he was a Benitez signing.
Yeah, maybe we just... I think we should actually maybe leave Jovanovic... let's give him a spare chance as well.
He's just got off lightly.
Yeah.
Right.
But then that's just testament to how bad he's in with, do you know what I mean, with Dundee and Balotelli.
Exactly. So it's 2 different eras of a horrendous player, but for different reasons, worthy of a final shit down. So,
I think everything Balotelli represents is bad. And he was, Dundee. I don't think I've ever heard him criticise Liverpool, whereas Balotelli was actively unpleasant about the fans and the people, and so I'm tempted to say Balotelli, but then again, Sean Dundee is commonly regarded as the worst player Liverpool's ever had.
And Mario Balotelli did score 4 goals for us. Sean Dundee didn't score for us. Which, as a striker, is surely part of the deal.
Oh, it's got to be Dundee, hasn't it? We're just prolonging the inevitable here.
We are.
It's got to be Sean Dundee.
Sean Dundee, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. You have no idea. So glad you agree with me. Sean Dundee, you are the perfect number 9 in our despicable 11.
It had to be really, didn't it? Yeah.
It couldn't be anyone else. Well, it could easily have been about 7 other people.
Yeah, it could have been.
But I mean, to be fair, there's a few names that I'm sure a few listeners will be thinking, oh, why haven't you mentioned XYZ? They probably are coming up next month.
Yes, when we do number 10.
Number 10s. This is it gives a chance for us to... I mean, there's certainly 3 or 4 names off the top of my head who were more... Yeah, probably better fitting for a 10 category. That will certainly need to be discussed at length. Next month.
Both, maybe.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
So there we go. It's almost there. We're almost there with it. Okay, and so we move on to the final feature of the month. This is a bit of a different one because Owen and I have been busy over the month. Part of the reason why we're so late to get this podcast out is because we've been doing our own little bit of investigative digging. we took our notebooks and our pads and pens and our laptops up to Melwood, where we just had a little look around and decided just to spend the day there, spend a few days there and document the experiences that we found. So this is a feature that we are tentatively and probably always going to be calling the totally normal, completely average day at Melwood. It's 6 a.m. on a crisp, cold morning in Melwood. The cafe is empty, apart from one junior intern who is slowly getting things ready for the morning. He's getting the cookers on, he's getting the fruit out, the bowls, the tables, chairs, all the cutlery, getting everything set up for the morning. As we sit here and we watch the work happening, we see our first recognisable faces enter, in the form of Jurgen Klopp's assistants, Jekko and Pete, who of course live together in a 2-bedroom flat opposite Melwood. They come in happy and smiley, enjoying the sunshine, which is so rare on these Liverpool days. They come in with their notepads and their pens and sit down and start writing and chatting to each other about what they're going to happen at their day's training. Meanwhile, on the other side, we also see our lovely lady, Catherine, who is in charge of the cafe, come in to start her morning and to tell off intern Joey.
Yes, because as it turned out, we sat there watching, and where he was supposed to be unloading the fruit and the sort of the nutritional food, Joey was actually cooking an enormous pot of macaroni cheese, and I can't overstate just the size of this. It was like a small pond, but all macaroni cheese, and he was stirring it lovingly and with a certain amount of care and vigour, but it was still macaroni cheese, and Catherine came over and she tore a strip or two off him, and poor Joey did look quite upset actually, and quite hurt, and so he kind of ran out of the kitchen, and he was going to just try and sit at the table for a minute and just gather his thoughts and calm down before going back in and having a sensible adult discussion about it. But then he saw Jekko and Pete sat there with the notebooks, and before he knew it, they turned round to him and said, "Are you all right, kid? You seem quite flustered." And he sat down, and he never meant to tell him his life story, but suddenly there it was, pouring out of him.
He talked at length about his growing up in Birkenhead and the tough times he'd had and how he loved Liverpool so much, and he was desperate for them to do well, having had some tricky years in the past, particularly under various other managers, and so many heartbreaks in recent years. And Jekko and Pete were really touched by this. They were really emotionally affected, learning about the story of a young kid who didn't have a lot of money and was struggling to make a living with his single mum and his brother Don, who they shared a good bond, but it was tough. Life was tough for them, and he loved having a job at Melwood. He loved being around the club. And they found this really inspiring. And as they were listening, Jurgen walked in. Of course, the managing team always get in first in the mornings. Jurgen, feeling slightly heavy-headed, having wanted many Jurgen brows, his home specialty brew that he makes in his lovely mansion out in the sticks. He comes in, feeling a little bit worse for wear, and sits down, clutching a cup of instant coffee from the machine. Meanwhile, Jekko and Pete are very emotionally sobbing, and Catherine is busy trying to get things ready on her own, because, of course, Joey's now sitting there sobbing. And she's starting to get quite stressed and worked up. But fortunately, her sister Debbie walks in.
Yeah, and Debbie is, she's one of those people who's just great to have around in any sort of crisis. She was, she's a calm head. She's exceptionally diplomatic. And she says to Catherine, what, why are you so flustered? What's going on? And Catherine explains that Joey, her kind of kitchen protege, has walked out of the kitchen in a sort of hot-headed moment. And so Debbie takes it upon herself to mediate between these two warring parties. And so she steps outside of the kitchen for a minute, and she bumps into Jurgen Klopp, who's still kind of wandering around in a bit of a daze, just trying to get his bearings after a hard night on the Jurgenbrausen. And as she bumps into him, she manages to spill his instant coffee all down the front of his like a sort of white suit that he wears in the mornings. He looks a bit like an evangelical preacher. It's quite odd. But yeah, and Jurgen's so just hungover and disorientated. He loses it a bit actually at Debbie, which shocks Jacko and Pete. You know, they've not seen him like this in many a year, and they rush up from the table and try and get between the two of them because Debbie, though she's a diplomat, she knows how to fight, and she's, you know, it only takes a few choice words for Jurgen before she snapped a chair leg off and is brandishing it quite wildly, and so Jacko and Pete run in there to try and, you know, hold the two of them apart, and Joey doesn't know what to do. He's bereft and bewildered.
He's very obviously having been very upset, he decides to sort of stay out of it and let them go. Of course, as the morning is railing on, more and more people are now arriving at the cafe. So the kit room staff, the gym medical practitioners, the people who work at the fitness, the training, the coaches, the defensive work, the academy coaches, all the staff obviously get in before the players do. In order to just get in early mornings and to discuss tactics or what methods they are for the day. Nutritionists need to get various supplements and things ready for the players. So it's becoming busier and busier, and so this commotion is drawing their attention. Obviously, it's 7 a.m. at this point. It's exciting. It's not something they were expecting. Anyway, as Jacko and Pete have stopped in and they've slowed everything down, Jurgen's best suit's covered in brown stains, which is, and he's tired and grumpy and hungover. They tell him, look, go get changed, go get yourself ready, and then we'll sit down and we'll chat about the tactics and things. And he sort of shuffles off in a grump and goes and grabs another coffee and gives a bit of an evil stare to Debbie, who sort of ready for a bit of a fight, but was very much sort of thinking, well, it's not my fault. Of course it wasn't my fault. And, they understand. Anyway, meanwhile, while all this is going on and Joey sat there's still only Catherine in the kitchen with a massive pot of macaroni cheese that for some reason Joey had been cooking all night. And she's got to deal with this, and she's got to get everything ready by herself, and she's getting flustered. And she forgets that the pot is still on. She hasn't actually turned it off because she's been, getting out the food and starting things cooking up, and she's trying to do this all by herself. And anyway, it catches fire.
It catches fire at the exact moment that James Milner, who, has turned up fashionably early for breakfast and training, like the gentleman he is, and he's just, he's heard a bit of commotion. And obviously James Milner, not a lot of people know this, has got a background in catering. Obviously he went to catering college in Yedden before he joined Leeds. And so he just pops his head around to see if there's anything he can do to help Catherine out. At the exact moment, this enormous pond of macaroni cheese just combusts and catches fire. And so, quick as a flash, he's there with a fire extinguisher. But it's too big for him. Like, James Milner's only a little guy, and this is an enormous inferno of burning macaroni cheese. And as he kind of reaches into the fire extinguisher, his arm catches, and before you know it, his arm's on fire. And he runs out and he thinks, I need to tell the boss, my arm's on fire, this is terrible. And, keeping characteristically calm. But he runs out of the kitchen and through the canteen, and he runs to Klopp's office and, bangs politely on the door. And Klopp opens the door, and he's just getting, we decided to follow with our notebooks. We've never seen anything like this before. And Klopp's there just changing out of his suit. So he's just in his Y-fronts, and James Milner stood in his doorway with a massive burning arm.
And Jurgen's very surprised. He's just, he hasn't got his tracksuit top on yet. He's only, he's topless, so to speak. And he's like, James, what is this? We can't do the accents for legal reasons. But James, what is this? And James is like, I've got my arm's on fire. I don't know what to do. My arm's on fire. And Jurgen says, well, why are you talking to me? I don't know how to put fires out. And James realizes this and goes, okay, sorry, boss, and just sort of walks off again. And then Jurgen goes, no, stop. Right, let's go and get a fire extinguisher. I have one in my office. So they wander into the office and they're dealing with that. So they've got that on there, and then they shut the door on us, so we don't know what happens in there. So we have to think, okay, we'll come back here in a bit. We need to see what else is going on downstairs, leaving James and things there. As we come downstairs, things seem to have settled down a bit. The fire's out. Joey is still sat in the corner, but he's sort of slowly getting himself together. And Jekka and Pete, who are sort of finally getting down to discuss tactics, sort of make sure he's okay to go back in the kitchen and help Catherine, who they can clearly see has had a bit of trouble, but Debbie's also back in there now, and their breakfast is ready now. Everyone is ready, so they're expecting the players to come in at about 8:30, and most of them do. You can see the sight of big Virgil van Dijk, who's still very excited about being here. He's not been here that long, lumbering in. You can't miss him. He's so bloody enormous. Jordan Henderson with a bit of banter, making sure everyone's okay. Mo Salah and his crown that he sort of has jokingly made for him by Oxlade-Chamberlain the other day, which he took from Burger King. He has a big B, but he's crossed out and put M on it. It's very funny, you see, as Oxlade-Chamberlain's sense of humour. But there's a couple of players missing, Owen.
Yeah, I mean, obviously James Milner's otherwise occupied, but we can't see Andrew Robertson anywhere, and we can't see Sadio Mane, and despite everyone else seeming to turn up, there's no sign of Trent Alexander-Arnold either. And we think this is a bit weird. Like, where are those three? Like, because they're three quite different players. They wouldn't naturally be sort of like carpooling together. I wonder where they are, and so we kind of go on a bit of a hunt for them. We go out and check for a car park, and we walk in, and there's this massive blazing row going on between Sadio Mane and Alexander-Arnold. They're stood in the corridor, and they are, screaming at each other at the top of the voice, while Andrew Robertson just stands there, nodding. And I'm like, what's going on here? And it turns out that they were supposed to be giving each other a lift. Like, the three of them do have a carpool together. But on this morning, apparently Trent had told Andy Robertson that Sadio was going to make his own way to Melwood, and so Andrew Robertson didn't go via Sadio's house this time, and so he had to get 4 buses and a taxi, and he's absolutely livid, and he's blaming Trent Alexander-Arnold. But we notice this little smirk on Andrew Robertson's face, and we just say, Robbo, do you mind if we take you to one side? Is everything all right? And he just looks at us, doesn't he? He looked us in the eye, and
yeah, he says to us, yeah, I'll fix this to happen. Sadio's not really angry. Sadio drove in himself. It's fine. I'm just winding Trent up because it's his birthday. We didn't realise it was Trent's birthday at the time. But yeah, it's his birthday, so they're having a little wind up to get him because it was like a little bit of banter going on between them. So that's why Robertson was so calm and chatty and happy to let this go on. Anyway, they're having this blazing round, and Trent's getting quite upset, and Mane realises he's probably gone a bit far, so he sort of grumpily says, okay, fine, and wanders off, with Robertson following quickly behind and sort of giggling, and Trent sort of looking a bit upset and down, and sort of wanders into the cafe and grabs his food, and they're all sat there now, and everyone's having dinner, but we haven't seen Milner and Klopp come out of the room, and it's a bit weird because he was on fire last we heard. So we ran upstairs. We wandered up. We thought, well, okay, it seems to be okay here at the moment. Let's go upstairs and see. Go into the office. And so we knock on the door a couple of times. There's no response. Right, okay. Knock again. No. So we sort of quietly open the door and creep in. So that kind of, hello, everyone okay? We okay? There's no one there. But the window's open.
Yeah, the window's open, and not only that, but all of the desk drawers are open, but like they've been forced open, and we can't help but sort of look in. And everything's been taken out of them, and we look under Klopp's desk, and there's what is clearly like a sort of safety deposit box that has been cracked open, and he's just left there, and all that's there is £4 in sort of loose change, £50 in euro notes, and a message. And we pick up the message, and it's like a sort of ransom note, but done out of letters from a Liverpool Echo. And it just says, me and Millie have gone for the border. We've taken all of the assets to the club. Come after us if you dare. I'm like, what the hell is this? And we look out the window just in time to see, this car zoom off. And it's like an open-top Jaguar. And you can just make out sort of Klopp's hair blown in the wind, and James Milner sort of sat, and you can tell it's Milner because although he's got quite an indistinguishable back of his head, his arm is still smoking gently in the passenger seat. I'm like, oh God, we should get after them.
It's a very unusual ruse for this. Of course, yeah, we needed to get after them, but we thought we should probably tell everyone else. So we ran downstairs and, we didn't want to make a big scene. Obviously, people are going about their daily business. And so we decided to speak to the most obvious authority figure we could find, which is Joey. And we told Joey, and we said, Joey, the Klopp and Millie have done a runner, and they've taken, technically they've taken the assets to Liverpool Football Club. They've taken, the deeds to Anfield and to Melwood. They've taken everything, the whole financial viability of this club. And they're running for the border, which, isn't far from here. It's just the Mersey, and then quick up on a ferry to Ireland, and they're out. What do we do? And he sort of looked up and quietly thought to himself, and he remembered back to a time when when he felt so familiar, because when he was younger, his dad did the same thing. His dad left them that way. He left them a message saying, I've taken the deeds to the house and I'm leaving for the border. Don't follow me. And suddenly this well of rage and anger and upset and frustration got him, and he just stood up at the top of his voice and like Braveheart or King Henry V, he bellowed to everyone in the room, we must not let them take it.
No.
To which point everybody looked around very confused, because obviously they had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, so, they were completely out of it.
In a much more elongated and complicated speech than we will do here, he explains everything that's happened and says, gives the club an ultimatum. We must go on a rat race to find them.
And so they said, but Joey said, I don't drive. How are we going to get after them? And that was when Andrew Robertson came forward, and he said, I've got a car. And it's got plenty of space because I normally carpool with Trent and Sadio, like hop in. And so you and me, we sat on the sort of footplate on the back, didn't we? Because obviously it was quite full. Because it was Joey, and Joey was Robbo was driving. Joey was in passenger seat, sort of, and then Trent Alexander-Arnold, we said, did he want to come or did he just want to stay behind? He said no, it was his birthday and he fancied a bit of adventure, and so he got him back with us. Sadio Mane was, him and Trent hadn't got on after the birthday drive thing, so he left it. But Day and Lovren got in with us, and the four of us just took chase after Klopp and Millie.
But of course, when we didn't know where to find them. We didn't know where to go. We sort of thought about where their favourite sort of haunting places, the habit places. Favourite places to go. Couldn't find. Trying to think of their favourite ones. Jurgen Klopp. There's a couple of pubs he really enjoyed. There was a discotheque that was his favourite thing. He liked to do a bit of shopping in the nice part of town. And James Milner. He liked. Jurgen Klopp had some very good places, so we checked all those out and see if anyone knew where they might go and how they might be trying to escape. And no one seemed to know. But it was just by happenstance that we were driving along the Mersey. And then we caught eye of a very flashy speedboat, big and fast, with two men in it, coloured blue. Yeah,
it was really odd, and we realised it was Klopp and Milner, but they disguised themselves as Evertonians. They'd taken off all their Liverpool tracksuits and put on an Everton kit to try and weaken the scent, and we thought, well, how the hell are we going to catch him now? Like, Andrew Robertson's a great left back, and he's quite a careful driver, but it's not chitty chitty bang bang. And we hear this sort of weird vroom, vroom, and we look along back up river, and who should be coming down the river in like a dirigible, like a little dinghy? But former Liverpool forward Christian Benteke. And we said, Christian Benteke, what are you doing here? You live in South London now. And he just sort of shrugged. And asked how we were, and we said, "Yeah, we're right. We're having a weird day, to be honest with you, mate. Have you met Joey?" And he said no, because Joey hadn't started when Benteke was still cool. Anyway, he bid us farewell and drove his dinghy down the river. And we're like, "Oh, that's really annoying." I was hoping he'd actually offer us a lift. Like, we've got to try and. But luckily, then along came another dirigible that was piloted by Robbie Fowler, because he's actually taken a course recently in dinghy handling, and he said, "Hop in. I've got as much interest in anyone as making sure the assets of Liverpool Football Club stay out of nefarious hands." And we said, "But Jurgen Klopp quite well, don't you? You've been club ambassador in pre-season tours. Like, surely you've trusted him." He's like, "No, I never trust a man who looks like he smokes but doesn't. and so we jumped in. It was me, Joey, me and you, Matt, and Joey, and Trent Alexander-Arnold. It was quite small. We didn't have room for. Andrew Robertson said he was fine. He was going to take the car back, and I think Dane Lovren. Well, it's quite awkward with him because he was just trying to We said, Dane, there's not enough room for everyone in this dinghy. There's already 5 of us. That is enough. Just go back with Andrew Robertson. And he said, no, I want to come. I want to help. And I said, Dane, you would be more help going back. Honestly, you will be more useful going back and just having an ordinary afternoon. But he didn't, and he tried to jump in as Robbie Fowler was pulling away from the dock, and he sort of just about got 1 foot off the edge of a dinghy, but obviously it's quite wet because it's quite loads of water, and he slipped and he fell backwards, and oh my God, Dane Lovren's going to drown in the Mersey. But Fowler was already moving off, and we said, Robbie, stop, we need to make sure he's okay. And the last thing we saw as we headed off after this speedboat in the distance was just Dane Lovren just sinking under the waves of the Mersey. I'm like, what the hell? And Andrew Robertson was panicking on the side, but we called and he couldn't hear us. Over the sound of a dinghy in his own car, which was still running because he kept the engine going, and it was dreadful.
It was, but we couldn't think about it. We had to get after that boat. Fortunately, Robbie Fowler had dinghy training and did understand how to drive a boat, and it was even more fortunate that neither Jurgen Klopp or James Milner did know how to drive a boat. So what ensued was essentially an hour-long chase in a circle around the Mersey River. They just kept turning right. It seemed they didn't know how to not turn right. Now, in hindsight, maybe we should have turned left and intercepted them, but we didn't. We didn't know what they were going to do next. Maybe they would turn left. Maybe they would go straight. Maybe they'd go right again. We had to just keep following them. We had to chase after them. We didn't know where Diane was. We didn't know what happened to Andy Robertson. It was all just so stressful. But we kept after them. We kept after them until clearly they ran out of fuel because they'd used so much power. They suddenly realised, oh no, they're not going to get away. So they moor up on the other side of the Mersey to where we are. They jump out and they grabbing everything they've got, and they jump out and they start running. And then we realise we've run out of fuel too because we both had the same engines at the same fuel tank levels by pure coincidence. But we're stranded. We're stranded on the other side of the river, and they're making a run for it over there. They haven't got a vehicle or anything like that. But then, out of the blue, speeding along, was not Andy Robertson at all, but it was Sadio Mane, who had come back in his car to save the day. And in the back were Catherine and Debbie. With their weapons.
Yeah, Debbie had still got the chair leg that she'd snapped off earlier in the fight with Jurgen Klopp. And Catherine had admirably and quite sensibly brought a whole selection of knives from the kitchen. A ladle, a rolling pin, and various sort of small but quite heavy pans, and they were roaring down in Sadio Mane's car, and luckily for us, they sort of corralled Milner and Klopp so that they had no option but to turn back towards the river. They couldn't get they all leapt out of the car and formed this sort of containment ring. So Millie and Klopp were trapped on the edge of the river, and we were sort of in the river, but we couldn't get to them. And they were stood on the edge of the banks of the Mersey, and thinking, this is it. We either jump into the river and swim for it, or we get bludgeoned to death by angry kitchen staff with rolling pins and knives. And just as they're about to leap off the river, this hand reaches out of the river and grabs James Milner's ankle. And he's like, oh my God, boss, I feel something on my ankle. And then another one on Jurgen Klopp's ankle. And they look down and they just see the seaweed splattered face of Dane Lovren peering up out of the Mersey, and he's like some sort of banshee rising from the waves, and he's furious, and he yanks both her ankles, and they go flying into the river. But as they do, this big brown envelope, which is stuffed with all the assets and deeds of Liverpool Football Club, flies into the air, and it looks like it might land with Debbie or with Catherine or with Sadio Mane, but none of them can quite grab it, and it falls, and it's falling towards the river. And
who should turn up? Turning back, realising what they'd asked of him, was Christian Benteke, who had finally realised that they were interested in asking him for his help, and by pure accident happened to be driving underneath it as this envelope lands gently in his boat. At the same time, grabbing hold of Dejan Lovren, climbs aboard this same boat and pulling Milner on with him. And he's tootling along and he saved the day. But he has absolutely no idea he saved the day because he's heading over to where we are with Robbie Fowler. They're going to ask him how his day has been. And so, with that, they go to the side of the river. We put them in we have to put them in Andy Robertson's car, who has been following us up and down for the past hour. Clearly just to hold on and see if we needed any help. We put Klopp and Milner back in the car. We put the things in and we take them back to Millwood and we lock them in their office.
And we say to Christian Benteke, thank you for rescuing the deeds to Liverpool Football Club. Like, you know, how can we ever thank you? Like, and he says, there's no problem. You can have these deeds back. All I ask is that you give me one more chance to centre forward. And we look at him and say, you know what, it is, keep him. It's fine.
And that was our day at Melwood.
That was a weird day, that, wasn't it?
It really was. I mean, training wasn't quite what I was expecting, to be honest with you. I mean, if that's Jurgen Klopp's methods, then, well, it clearly work. But...
Yeah, I thought we'd see more. Like football.
Yeah, so did I. Strangely.
But then I guess, you know, you don't always get what you expect. That's, you know, that's part of why life is so fun.
It is, absolutely. I mean, you know, that's only page one. In the first chapter of what we've got so much more here we could talk about in terms of other things that we've seen and other things that we've done, of course, you know. And, yeah.
Well, yeah, we should share some more of our stories very soon, I believe.
Absolutely. But for now, that is the end of the podcast.
It is. What a way to end.
So if you'd like to talk to us about anything that you've heard over the last few hours, you can on our Twitter handles. I'm at MGH Simpson.
I'm at OGB Collins.
Or you can reach us on our Plastic Scousers Twitter handle at PScousers. Also follow at Keegan's Veg. Find us on YouTube by searching Simpson and Collins. And most importantly, if you're listening to this podcast via iTunes, hit that subscribe button.
Yes. Please do follow Keegan's Veg as well. I love Keegan's Veg.
Oh, we all love Keegan's Veg. But yeah, we are coming towards the end of the season and it's looking exciting now. We've got Manchester City games coming up in the Champions League. We've got more Premier League games to try and cement our place in the top four. And yeah, plenty more to talk about.
The April podcast is going to be a good one, that's for sure.
Absolutely right. But for now, thank you so much for listening, everyone. Look after yourselves and each other. And I guess we'll be back in a month or so.
We will indeed. Take care of yourselves. We will see you again.
Oh, I am a Liverpudlian, and I come from the Spion Cup. I love to sing, I love to shout, I get thrown out quite a lot. We support the team that's dressed in red. It's a team that you all know. It's a team that we call Liverpool, and to glory we will go. We've won the league.